Hey, Max, how's it going, man?
Good, man. Good.
Listen, welcome to Spark.N.Stride, Max, where conversations are sparked and put in motion.
Awesome.
On behalf of the 50th anniversary of hip hop, I must say I'm wearing my Run DMC
I love it.
t-shirt. So what's up, Max? What's going on, man? Talk to me.
Not much, man. Just we finished working today. So, just kicking back, talking a little bit. And then, see what the rest of the week's got out for me. So I'm doing good.
Cool, man. So, Max, you own a fitness gym.
I do.
Right? It's called Amped.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
And how did you come up with the name for your fitness gym?
So I've wanted to own a gym like literally my whole life.
Okay.
Before I even had my accident, which I'm sure we'll dig into, but
Okay.
So I always knew that this is what I wanted to do. And then once I had this accident when I was 18, so this was 2012, so it was 11 years ago. And then I became, I lost my leg, so I'm an amputee. And then I always knew from that point on, I was like, at some point or another, when I own some sort of fitness facility, I didn't know what it was going to be, but I knew it was something health related. I was like, I'm going to name this thing Amped because it's kind of a play on words. It's, amped up. Like that's what most people think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how catchy would that be if, it's amputee, but it's amped up. And then I just, from the beginning, I had the vision of like, damn, how awesome would it be to have like these all over the country and somebody, franchise, whatever it may be. And the person's like, oh yeah, the owner's an amputee. That's why it's named what it is. So I just thought that was real catchy, and then I ran with it, and it's it's awesome to see where it's at now.
Wow, man. Dude, so first and foremost, thank you for being here, and thank you for being open, or your willingness to be open.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Losing a leg, I can't even imagine, right? Before we deep dive into that, I would just like to go back a little bit.
Sure.
Right, because the folks that are going to be listening and watching,
Yep.
they're going to kill me in the comments because they're like,
context.
well, they're going to be like, well, why did you stop that guy? He was just about to tell you how he had this accident.
Right.
We're going to get to that. Just hold your horses, okay? Max, so you said growing up, you've always wanted to have a gym or be in this industry. Is that fair to say?
Yep.
So talk to me a little bit about what happened prior to your accident. What was life for you like then?
So, in terms of like the typical sports kid, that was not me. I was not a team player.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the stick and ball sports. We tried everything, like, all of them, baseball, soccer, football, whatever. Which as a parent, you do your due diligence. You put your kid in these things just to see what they like. Nothing really clicked. At a young age, I was lucky enough that while I was exploring these things, my dad was into jet skis and dirt bikes and just an adrenaline junkie.
Mm-hmm.
He never took it as far as I did, but it was always a thing that, I feel like if you don't have at least a parent or somebody that puts you in that situation, you're never really going to know, which, thankfully he did, because it showed me I had such a burning passion. I still do for dirt bikes and stuff like that. So when I was 4 years old, for my fourth birthday, they got me this tiny little dirt bike, and I used to just ride it around my backyard. And even while I was exploring other sports and trying to figure out what I liked, it was always the dirt bike. Like that's always what it came back to. And for a while, I just didn't think I didn't think that could be the sport that I played. It was, it wasn't really considered a sport. It was more of like a hobby type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then as I got older, my dad kind of laid it out, and he was like, listen, you could try, baseball. We could keep trying this, or he's like, if you want to ride the dirt bike, we can do that. And I was like, I remember like it was yesterday. I was like, I didn't even know that was an option. Like we could just do this. And then that from there opened the doors up. And I did a little bit of other stuff, like I wrestled in high school for a while, but even the wrestling was just an off-season thing to keep me in shape for when the motocross season came. And I was just like dove into that head first. And every year we just became more immersed in this world. And, like anything, there's injuries. Dirt bikes are one of the more dangerous sports compared to something else. So we knew it was inevitable. It's really not, not if, but when type of deal. And then as I started getting faster and the bikes got bigger and we traveled and the tracks got more advanced, there was like, okay, well, this, broken bone here, this, that. And, when I was 18, I had a big one that changed me forever. And, we can kind of dig into that a little more, but that's kind of what put me, in that situation.
Wow, man. So hang on a second. So in terms of like motocross, right? That motocross, right? Can you tell me a little bit more about how much of a subculture that is, like that community?
Yeah.
Because when I think of motocross, because of the traveling, I always feel like when there's any sort of travel component to something, it just instinctively, or the natural order is what I like to say, like it brings people together, right? Because you're traveling, the camaraderie is building up.
Yep.
Is that fair to say, like similar in that world?
100%. So it's not a huge sport, especially not in this area. It's a little bigger, Florida, California, like those where it's more mainstream. So usually, like when I meet somebody and I tell them, oh, I race dirt bikes, almost everybody knows somebody. And I always tell them like, all right, I probably know who that is. Regardless of where they're from, New York, PA, like it's just such a tight-knit community. It's like we, obviously there's a lot of travel. There's not a lot of tracks in the area, but it was the same, 30 guys or whatever that, and each year you essentially have like a class. So it's like, okay, my age group, I still know all these guys, especially the guys that stayed local. And, we keep connection a little bit here and there, but it's like if you rode a dirt bike, everybody knew who you were. Yeah. If, two people rode a dirt bike, you knew each other, especially in this area. And it was just one of those things like it's positives and negatives, right? Mm-hmm. Traveling is awesome because you get to see a ton of stuff, but it's expensive.
Yep.
You got hotels, you got, time away from work. So it had its positives and negatives, but I saw some awesome parts of the country. I got to one of the coolest experiences I ever had. And again, we can, dig into this a little more, was I raced in the X Games. So I raced out in LA. So I drove to California. I raced in the Staples Center where, Kobe Bryant was a Laker at the time. I'm like, how many people in the world can say they rode their dirt bike where Kobe Bryant was shooting, 3-pointers?
Wow.
So that was a hell of an experience.
How old were you when that was going on?
I was 19.
Wow.
So I was young.
Dude.
Yeah, but that was awesome. When I got that invite, dude, it was like my dream. That was like dream come true. I remember getting the email. It's like, you have been invited to race in 2013 Summer X Games out in LA. And we just like, my dad was like, let's go.
So, but how does that work though? Like, who's emailing you? And I know this might sound stupid, but like, who's emailing you? Why are they emailing you? How do you get, baptized into this culture, right? Because you're saying you've raced. So is it more of a race type of a setup? Like you're racing? Because I'm thinking jumps, flips, tricks, but then you're saying racing. So
so it's kind of, I guess just to kind of like dumb it down in a sense.
Yeah, please.
It's basically like a bicycle, right? So there's guys that do tricks on bicycles.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's guys that race them like, downhill, mountain bike or whatever, a closed course. So I raced. I didn't do any tricks. People always ask me, oh, you do backflips? Like I didn't do any of that stuff. It was just how fast can I possibly go on this bike around a closed course that was like, maybe a 2 mile circuit, whatever it is, a 1 minute 30 lap time. And that was always what we did. We rode the same tracks because it was just, that's the local spot. You did your off the bike training. And then it was whoever was the most prepared, whoever did their homework in the off season, whoever was, had things lining up the right way during the season was, okay, this, you could tell kind of, okay, this person rode over the winter. They rode in the, the sand. They did their homework and they came swinging this year. And it was just,
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
What would stand out the most to you for you to make that conclusion, or for someone to make that be like, okay, yeah, he he rode in sand. He like what would stand out the most to you?
So it was so before I really started, like I said, like every year I kind of took it more seriously. But when you were younger, it was like, okay, well, it snows, it starts getting cold. You know, you're a 10-year-old kid. You don't want to ride when it's 30 degrees out. You're going to freeze.
Mm-hmm.
Then as you get older, it's okay, well, if I want to even be competitive, you know, come May, I have to ride. If it's 30 degrees, it doesn't matter. I'm putting gloves on. I'm putting double up gloves, and we're just going to go. The sand, you know, the hard pack tracks, like when it's real cold, like it's too slippery. Like you get, you know, water, ice, whatever the case may be, like you can't really ride on them. The sand doesn't freeze up. So it was like, okay, well, we're riding the sand pit.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah, so it's still cold out.
Yeah.
But at least the dirt is loose enough that you can still ride even though it's 40 degrees, 35 degrees, and we're, you know, freezing our asses off, but we're making do. We're out there just to be better. We're not out there to enjoy ourselves. And so it would be, okay, well, you know. So
is this like you and your boys?
Me and my dad.
You and your dad?
Yeah, maybe my brother would come every once in a while, but he was not as gritty.
Yeah.
But it was like, you know, if we were going, and we lived in New York, so there wasn't anywhere to ride up there. It was like, okay, we're coming down to like Manahawkin, we rode. You know, there's a lot of sand pits out in Jersey, that they're just like quarries, and we would meet up with a bunch of guys, and we would just, you know, link up a track, and everybody was running the same little man-made track, and that was like a Sunday in January. And it was just like, and it's like a known thing. If you rode dirt bikes, you ride sand pits. And
at this time, what kind of bike are you riding?
So I started going to sand pits when I was on 85s. So there's the bike I first got was a 50, which was real tiny. Then you go to 65s. Then you go to 85s. Then you go, you know, bigger, the biggest bike, which is like a 125, 250. They're same size frame. They just have bigger motors.
Right?
Yeah.
So the smaller ones, like the ones that you first started out on, are those like 2 gears, 3 gears? Like how does that?
Actually, the first bike I had no gears.
No gears.
It was like a shaft driven, like just crack the throttle and go. And then the second bike is a clutch, and you got 6 gears. You got 1 down, 5 up. So that's a big adjustment to go from none to, you know, essentially you're 8 years old and you're having to work this transmission and learn all that and learn the gears, and okay, the bike's revving out, you shift, okay, you're coming down into a turn, you got to go down 1, 2, 3, 2 gears, whatever. So, and all you're doing, that's why it's crazy. Like sometimes I'll watch slow motion guys like riding it like a pro riding a dirt bike, and it's like incredible the amount of things that their body's doing. Their right foot is on the brake. Their right hand is on the front brake. Their left hand is on the clutch. Their left foot is on the gears. They're doing all of that while going 40 miles an hour down a straightaway into a tight little hairpin turn. They're going down. They're clicking the clutch. They're hammering the gas, all like in such synchro. It's just like art. It's art. And you can't appreciate that unless you've done it and you know to look for that.
Yeah.
But like the guys that are good, it's like a work of art.
Yeah.
Like not, and it's some people just, you know, like I never was able to get to that level. Some people are just blessed to be able to know how to work their body in that way.
Yeah, for sure.
And these are the little things that make you, I'm the best in the world, you know? Like,
to be in sync, right? With the whole thing.
Yep.
I learned how to ride a motorcycle later on in life in 2016.
Okay.
In 2016, I took a trip with my buddies. I went to Vietnam.
Okay.
And I rode up the Ho Chi Minh Trail from Saigon to Hanoi.
Wow.
It was like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
I was on a it might have been like a 200cc.
Okay.
One of the guys went to like a 250.
Yeah, that's
he just wanted like a little bit more pop, you know, but it's a little heavier too.
Yep.
So I think all of us were on 200s, and only one guy was on a 250. However, learning how to ride on a cruiser and then going to a dirt bike in Vietnam, dude.
Totally different, right?
Absolute amazing experience.
Yeah.
Amazing experience.
Yep.
But it did take me roughly 2 days to get comfortable with the bike. I couldn't really find the center of like balance or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Dude, the very first day, we're trying to get out of Saigon. We get lost. It's like 4 guys. Long story short, we were on our way because we could only ride really for like 8 hours at a time because, you know, we're dealing with like sunlight. We don't know where we are. We're in a third world country.
Right.
Comms, like it was like a whole thing. However, we're about to go through our first mountain pass, and the folks that are coming down on the opposite side, they all have ponchos on. They're soaking wet. So instinctively, like we got to pull over. We got to pull our ponchos on because there's rain. Probably the most scariest things that has ever happened to me on that trip. So in other countries, dude, like there's traffic laws and stuff, but they're like nice to haves almost, you know, like not everybody, you know, so on this mountaintop, you have people passing each other on these tight roads to include trucks. So as we're coming up, it's my first day on the bike, dude, I'm coming around a corner and I'm not going really fast and I'm not going really slow.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to keep up with the rest of the guys. I'm the last one. So as I'm coming around this corner, there's literally a dump truck. A dump truck is passing another dump truck. And this guy's in my lane. Bro, I couldn't go. There wasn't nowhere for me to go.
Yeah.
One of the first things that I learned in the motorcycle class that I took was similar to like snowboarding. You have to look in the direction that you want to go.
Yep.
You look down, you're going down, right? Max, you got to understand that there is no right side to me.
Right.
There's nothing on the right side.
Right.
There is a little piece of road and a drop. Had I gone over that drop, they would have never found me.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been lights out.
Yeah.
So as the truck is coming, I literally, it was a split second. You're either like flight or fight.
Right.
So my thing was just like, stay looking straight.
Yeah.
And I literally, dude, like, I don't know how I'm still here because that truck was so close to me and the amount of space that I had was not much. Had I froze up and looked right, I would have went down.
You would have went right over.
Went,
so would you go right in between the 2 trucks?
No, dude, like I got pushed all the way over to the side.
Okay.
That's why I wish I would have got in between 2 trucks.
Yeah.
Maybe I could hang on to something. No, dude, this was like, Mach, go straight or go to the abyss.
Oh.
Yeah.
Woo.
So,
God.
But yeah, man, just but by the second day, I figured out the center of gravity of the bike.
Right.
And to your point, when you're just doing everything as you're trained or as like, you know, you're one with the bike.
It just flows.
Yeah, dude.
You know, it just becomes like you and even like I'll give you an example. One time, I was with a buddy of mine from high school, and he was like a little bit older than me, so he was able to drive. And my dad was at work, so I was like, Dad, can we go? Like, he's just gonna drive and I'm just gonna ride, and we're gonna. He was like all psyched about it. He's like, yeah, I'll take you, like whatever. So he goes, he's like, yo, at the end of the day, like, can I just take a rip around the parking lot? I'm like, yeah, like whatever. And he was like, I rode, you know, in Italy. He was this Italian kid. He's like, in Italy we ride scooters, like whatever. He's like, I know how to ride it. It'll be fine. Meanwhile, this is like my race bike. So he gets on it, dude, just cracks it and just whiskey like flies off the back. He ended up like crashing so bad. We had to take him to like the hospital. Like he busted open his knees. He was fine, but just bad scrapes. And I'm like, even sometimes like you get on the bike and like you're so used to it that you just like know, like I know I get on a bike, I'm like, okay, I know throttle, you know, control, whatever. Mm-hmm. But the average person that gets on these things have so much torque and they just rip like, and the gas is this way. So like as you're falling off the back, you're literally just cracking it open more. And that's why you see these videos online of these people getting on these bikes and they just, because these bikes have insane amounts of power. Like even the ones that you rode, like the race ones, even the pros, like they detune them. They make them slower out of the box because the ones that you buy like out of the crate, the dealership, they're rocket ships.
Really?
And that's just like how it is. Like they just give people so much power in these bikes. And it's, you know, it's you think like, all right, a faster bike, I'm gonna go faster. Like, no, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
You learn to ride a slow bike fast, you're gonna be fast.
Wow.
So that's just like you learn these things, you know, as you go.
Yeah, no, 100%, man.
But
Like,
it's crazy. Crazy.
no, so like on the second day, I start getting accustomed to the bike. Everything's all good. But the one thing with this particular bike was that the way the seat was, it's not meant for you to ride it for like 8 hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's like these 2 points of, I guess, impact on your thighs.
Yep.
Dude, by like the second, third day, you couldn't even sit. You couldn't even sit down. You couldn't even sit down.
Yeah, you can't. Like even the bike I have now is like you ride that thing for 30 minutes. That's it.
Really?
Anything more than that, like if you're out riding in the woods, like yeah, you're gonna be dying. The seat's not made for that. It's just not. It's not a Cadillac. You know?
Exactly.
It's a short spurt.
Yeah.
So
if I could go back and do it again, I think I would have had like better pants with like some kind of padding in them.
Yeah,
because I didn't have that, dude. I took camping pants.
You're just like dying out.
Oh
there.
my god, dude! But I'm telling you, by the third day, it took us. I think we were slotted for like 12 days, and we did it in 10.
Okay.
So we got up to Hanoi like a day early. So I was so happy to give the bike back. Don't get me wrong, it was a great trip.
Yeah.
The cool thing about it is you know this from riding bikes, like you're just seeing everything like really fast.
Yeah.
Right. So you're seeing this whole country, this beautiful country.
Yeah.
You're just, going through, and every day would be a different place to sleep.
Right.
So sometimes it'd be like some little village in the middle of some rice paddy somewhere.
Wow, I can't even imagine.
Dude, sick.
That's on my bucket list. I'd never ridden my bike outside of this country. And I would love to be, not to, I'm kind of over the racing thing. I would love to race eventually one day, but just to be able to go on a cruise and ride like that and just be on a bike, which is something I love. And then on top of that, be able to get this scenic view. Because when I ride these tracks, it's all just dirt hills. You know, it's like they're in a farm.
Yep.
But to be able to ride another country on a ledge like that and just be like, wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I'll show you pictures, and when I put this podcast together, when I edit this down, I'll throw some pictures in there. You know what I mean? But no, man, listen. First of all, the group of guys that we all went together, we're still friends to this day.
Yeah.
And the guys knew each other, like some went to college together. So I got brought in. Like I didn't grow up with these guys.
Right.
However, this experience that we had together, going back to what I was saying before, like the camaraderie, the traveling, the this and that. Dude, we just have this unique experience that we rode up the Ho Chi Minh Trail from Saigon to Hanoi in 2 weeks.
Crazy.
Amazing, bro.
Yeah.
Like
that's something you guys could talk about literally forever.
Oh,
like that's like anytime you're with them, like, yo, you remember when we did this? Like that did this? That's like once in a lifetime.
The last night that we were there, we ate King Cobra.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was like a celebration.
That's crazy.
It was like a celebration, So my buddy Tommy, he was already trying to piece this together like 4 days prior. So we're trying to, as we're going to these different places, he's like trying to research and try to find.
Yeah.
Because it's a delicacy, you can't just find it everywhere.
Right.
On average, we did not spend more than $10 on food a day.
Wow.
10 US.
Yeah.
On average.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for the most part, it wasn't more than 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But the last night with the King Cobra, it was almost $300
to eat that.
Yeah, because between all of us.
Yeah.
Because it's a delicacy.
It's like a rare thing.
It's a super rare thing. Yeah. Wow. But we ate a King Cobra,
That's
dude.
wild.
Yeah, dude.
There's not many people that could say they did
No,
that.
man. It was awesome, dude. Dude, if you're really like interested in doing something like that, we could talk offline.
Yeah.
I could tell you exactly how we did it, how we put it together.
I would love to do that.
I'd be so down.
Oh, man.
I'd be so down to do it.
What,
again.
you would go again?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh, dude,
Hell yeah.
100%.
Hell yeah.
I keep saying I'm like with the new gym and everything, which we'll talk about. I'm like right now. I'm like it's starting to kind of settle into its place. I'm like, all right, I need to go on an adventure.
Yeah,
that sounds like a sick
Are you into
adventure.
camping?
Yeah, dude, I'll do anything.
Yeah, all right,
I'll do
cool.
anything.
Yeah. Oh, dude,
100%.
So the crazy thing about like, not crazy, but for me, I didn't get involved or get exposed to any of this kind of stuff until late in life.
Right.
Like late in life, like grown ass man kind of thing. You know, like I didn't grow up camping. I didn't grow up fishing or anything. I grew up in the projects in Brooklyn in the mid 90s. You know, we didn't have any money for anything. Right. So I didn't even go see like my first professional baseball game until like I was an adult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at is that like I'm big on experience. I'm big on trying things and learning about things.
Yeah.
And I have a list of all these different things that I want to, you know, get into. Right. I've never been ice fishing. I want to try that. You know what I mean? But the motorcycle thing, like in another country, dude, I will tell you exactly, you know, I want to say, because I was asking people all the time, I was like, hey, so I'm going to go to Vietnam. I'm going to fly from JFK. I'm going to fly to Vietnam. I'm going to rent a motorcycle for 2 weeks. And I'm going to sleep in a different place every day for 2 weeks. How much do you think this would cost me? People are like, man, I don't know, like 10,000, 8,000, 5,000. Dude, that trip was less than $3,000. Wow. It was less than 3,000. It was like I am not making this up.
That's
it was less
a weekend in Miami.
Yeah.
You go to Miami, well, that in 2 days.
Exactly. Dude, and this was like so much more fulfilling.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like you're just
100%.
Again, you're cruising, you're seeing everything. You know what I mean? And I don't know if you're like a big foodie or like if you'll try.
I like to eat. I'll eat whatever.
Yeah, because that's not the country to be picky.
Yeah, you got to be willing to.
Yeah, that's not the one where you're like,
I don't know.
McDonald's, like no, not happening.
None of that. No,
not happening, bro. No McDonald's. So we ended up eventually by like, you know, day 2, day 3, I had one of the hotel workers write on a napkin for me. It was like, I would like, but in Vietnamese, right? Like I would like a room with air conditioning and a cold beer. So every time we would go, this
so
is
you
what
you would pass that.
Like here you go. They're like, okay, yeah, we got you. And then the way they serve you like beer in Vietnam is they just bring a case to the table and you just get charged for what you drink. Yeah. But think about that, man. Like you bring a case of beer to your buddies, like you're gonna drink it. You're gonna drink the entire case. Yeah. No one's gonna be like, no, I'm not drinking that one. Like, no, like
you're gonna take it.
Exactly.
Right.
One of the wild things that I saw while I was there, it was one of the days was Women's National Day, like for women.
Right.
It's like their one day where so at first, because we're coming in and out of these towns and we're seeing like these huge tents being put up and we're like, man, like what's going on? Is it like some federal holiday that we don't know? It was like National Women's Day. So I want to say it's almost similar to like a Sweet 16 kind of a thing where like if you're like, I don't know, 15 or 16 years of age, the family's going to celebrate you and there's like DJs and food. So we end up going to this restaurant like on National Women's Day. And in the middle of the country is where I started seeing this. The more what I would say is garbage or trash, the more shit you have underneath your table, the more fun you're having.
Yeah.
Or it's almost like you're showing the rest of the people in this restaurant that you and the folks at this table are engaged and there's like love here and family, right? So they drink a beer, they throw it to the ground. They're eating stuff with like shells, they throw it to the ground. So like there's like all this empty beer cans and all this kind of thing underneath these tables. I've never seen that. I was just like, dude, that's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're just like collecting it.
They're just throwing it underneath the table. You know what I mean? But Women's National Day, yeah, man, we should look into that, dude.
Oh,
that
without a doubt.
And there's so many other places too. Like I know there's something like South America you could do. I want to say like you can start off somewhere in Mexico and make your way all the way down South America. I don't know how crazy that would be. I think you could be prepared to like maybe get kidnapped because it's possible.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you see all those shows on like Nat Geo.
That's wild.
You know what I mean?
Riding on a motorcycle through, Colombia.
Yeah, man. Man. Crazy stuff, dude.
Wow.
Crazy stuff, man. So how'd you get hurt?
Okay, so I have like a long list of injuries. Like broken arm. I broke my femur when I was 15. That was a real bad one. I had to be like flown out of the track in like a helicopter. Then I broke.
Bro, you broke your femur?
Yeah, but it almost went through the skin, and I was young. I was 14.
We call that like a compound fracture.
Yeah,
right?
yep. It was. I was out in like a track, same thing, in the middle of a farm. But these tracks are literally in the middle of nowhere, and they were like, we can't even get the ambulance in here like safely. The road's too bumpy, so they're like, we just gotta call a helicopter, and they shut the whole track down. They came down, they threw me in there. I wish I was in a better condition to enjoy the ride. That was the only time I've ever been in a helicopter, but yeah, they pulled me out, brought me right to the hospital. That was a bad one. I broke my foot. A bunch of little stuff, my hands, fingers, this, that. But the big one was when I was 18. I was qualifying for this big race in Tennessee. It was like there's 3 rounds. So you do the first round, which I made it through. Then I crashed at the second one. And then the second one, you go to the national. So we were at the second one. We were in the middle of PA. Same thing, like literally middle of nowhere. And then I was doing pretty good up to that point, which it always seems to work out that way. Like right when like I'm doing well, things are about to, it's almost like that's just the luck that I had. It was every time I had a bad crash, it was right before I was like feeling really good. So, I hit this jump. And what they do is they water the track, so because it gets real dusty. So they try to keep the water down, the dust down. So they throw water down. But this track was like hard packed. So when you throw water on, like a hard surface, it gets super slippery. So this jump was like ice, and I could see it. I was coming up to it. I could see all the water on it, and I'm just like, oh my God, like this is gonna be. I'm just gonna slide like crazy. So I'm coming up and I got I'm on the gas, and you just get same thing. Like you learn intuition and feeling of like the bike and how it reacts to things. And I just knew I was like getting no traction. I was just slide and I had people behind me, and I've been landed on previously. Like I've landed on people have landed on me, and that's terrible. Like that hurts.
Yeah, that's
so
not what
I
you
was
want.
like, yeah. So I was like, all right, well, I got guys behind me. There's no way this guy's landing on me. I'm just gonna like hammer it. So I'm just on the gas. I'm wide open. I'm sliding as I come up, but like you squeeze the bike to kind of keep it together. So I jump, and I just barely didn't make it over. So I landed knuckled it right on the top, and it was like a jump up a hill. So instead of landing like on the track, I landed off to the side. So I landed all the way at the bottom of the hill, and I was, flipping, I guess, through the air, and I landed on my right leg, like just that. The left leg was fine, and it was like a 30-foot drop, and we have boots and all this other gear, but I knew when I landed, I was in excruciating pain right off the bat, but I was also I was just pissed. I was like, I cannot believe I just blew my whole weekend off of, just this jump. And
so real quick,
go ahead.
When you're saying that you landed, so you're not landing on the track, obviously you're landing off to the track. But when you say landed, 2 wheels landed,
I was separate. So the bike actually ended up on the stayed on the track.
Oh.
And it just tipped over on the top of the jump. So the bike made out better than I did. I landed all the way on the bottom of the jump and just right down.
So you got tossed almost. Yeah. When you say you landed I'm assuming you're being tossed around like a rag doll, almost in the air.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So, and when you land, it's not like you land on your feet. Right.
Well, it could have been worse. I could have landed on my neck from that height, which would have, who knows what could have happened. So if I was going to fly through the air, I'd rather land on my feet.
Right.
And so I land and immediately just pissed off. Like I sit up, I take my helmet off. I'm like just sitting there. The medic comes over. They put me on the back of the little UTV. They take me off the track. They take my bike, whatever. And I go back to my truck and my dad shows up and, he's like, yeah, is everything all right? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, like, it hurts, but, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I was like, it's a lot of pain, but hopefully
the
it'll
shock
reside.
hasn't even come in
Yeah,
yet?
like I'm still kind of.
You're in shock.
Yeah.
You're in shock.
It still didn't even really set in.
Yeah.
So then once it starts to kind of like, an hour passes and I'm like, damn, this thing hurts. So we go, they have like a little medic at the track. So we go over to him. He takes the boot off. He starts looking at it and he's like, it doesn't really look too bad. It was like from my own eyes, it looked fine. So it wasn't like anything, looking back on it, people are like, well, I don't understand. It looked up fine. I was like, yeah, it didn't look like anything. The boot just kept everything together. It wasn't black and blue. It wasn't swollen. It was nothing. So from the outside looking in without an x-ray, the guy's like, oh, maybe a sprained ankle, but you see, it seems okay. So then I was like, all right, well, I'm going to take his word for it. So we go back to the truck and usually I can kind of sleep it off a little bit. I knew I was done riding for the day, but I was like, all right, maybe I can ride tomorrow if it feels okay. So I'm laying there and it was just worse and worse pain and just kept getting worse and worse. And it was like knowing what I know now. So, this is a little later on in the story, but I ended up severing 2 arteries in my leg. So I think what was happening when I was at the track is the blood was just pooling like in there. And it was just, the pressure was building up. And as the hours went past, like I was just, essentially the leg was just dying on my body because there was just no blood flow. So I didn't know that at the time. I was still just laying there. And so they took me.
Dude. Bro. You're saying that you fell, you got injured, and you severed 2 arteries in your leg. Which leg was it? Your right leg?
Right leg.
In your right leg, you severed 2 arteries? Bro, you know how painful that is? How crazy that is?
Yeah, it was nuts. I didn't know.
I'm in shock right now. Like that's crazy.
It was very painful to the point where it was so bad. Like I told my dad, I was like, we have to go to the hospital literally right this second because I don't even know if I feel like I'm going to pass out. So we go to the medic. They just IV and just straight morphine. Like the highest dose of whatever they had, they would just gave it to me. And it was like a 40-minute ride in the ambulance. And like looking back on it, it was like a blink of an eye that it went by because I was just so out of it.
But how did they come to the not conclusion, but how did they get to the point where they're like, no, dude, morphine, IV, gone? Like, because
I think it was just my level, like my pain. Like I've always had a pretty high tolerance of pain,
right?
And so whenever like,
but are they like checking your leg and they're like, oh shit, he has like internal bleeding?
No, I don't know. They didn't know any of that. It was literally just like I think them, like the medic at the track, looking from his perspective to mine was probably like, oh, this kid's exaggerating. Like it didn't look, it didn't look like anything.
Right.
So I know my body. I know like, when you go to a hospital and they give you the scale, 1 to 10, and they have the little faces and they're like, the 10 is really pain. Like I'm always like, I could be in there with like a broken arm and be like, it's a 4. Mm-hmm. Like I'm just like, I don't like to complain about anything. This was like 12. Like I was like, what the hell is going on? Like to the point where I knew, okay, this is not a broken foot. Like I've had that before. This is way worse than that. So I was like at this point, I probably was screaming. So they just was like, shut this kid up, give him whatever. And I remember I held my leg in my hands like this, like propped it up, laying back in the ambulance for like an hour ride and just held it like that. And just, we rode to the hospital. I went to Pittsburgh Medical Center. As soon as I got in there, they rushed me in immediately. And that's when like the hell just set in.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Hang on a second. Bro, so like no tourniquet, no none of that because you don't know what you don't know.
Nothing.
Had you known that you severed arteries, then you could tourniquet your thigh.
Yeah, I'm sure there was probably stuff that, looking back on it, like we have this conversation sometimes, but I'm also the type of person, like, I'm like, this is what it is. It doesn't even, there's no benefit to dwell on the past.
Right.
But I'm like, there may have been some things they could have done to save it.
Yeah.
I think even the hospital did some stuff that they probably shouldn't have done.
Mm.
But like when I first got in there, the first thing they did was cast it, which I think was probably not the best idea because it was like there was so much swelling, and then they just like crushed it with the cast.
What was the point of casting it, though?
I think they x-rayed it before they did an MRI, and the x-ray showed a bunch of broken bones. So they were like, we don't want this thing to move. And so they just, I had what was called a pilon fracture, which is basically the doctor described it as like if you had a chandelier and you hit the bottom of it with a hammer and it just exploded. Like that was what happened to my foot, basically. So that break with all those pieces, like 12 pieces just floating around in there, and then no blood flow to repair, it was just like inevitable. So maybe not, maybe it was inevitable that, maybe it wasn't going to get saved. But I'm like, I don't know if casting it would have been a good, but they didn't know, so whatever. They're there to help people. They thought that was the best move. I'm not, a doctor. I can't say. So I was, we didn't know what we didn't know. We were just letting them do what they had to do, but they were moving quick, and that was scaring the shit out of me. They were like, this doctor. They had like a team right away, cast. They put out this little thing called a Doppler, which I think they use like maybe for babies to like check the pulse or something. And they were checking the pulse on my leg, and they would come in every hour just to see, okay, they would see it, hear it beep, beep, whatever. And then,
so you're still bleeding at this point because they haven't,
they haven't internally.
Done,
yeah. Outside looked fine.
Of course.
Still,
right.
Nothing. Inside must have been like,
oh my God, I can't even imagine.
Pool, it was just, I can only imagine that first surgery, what it looked like in there. It must have been a war zone in there.
Yeah.
Just from it being a day later.
Yeah.
And there was just no, I don't even know. Where the hell's that blood going?
So hold on, dude. So they cast it. So when they cast it, it's still swelling.
Yeah.
But now it's in a cast.
Well, I think that almost like you said, a tourniquet, like that cast almost acted as the tourniquet. So they almost were killing it unintentionally.
Wow.
While I was still alive. Like I'm obviously awake and alive and whatever, and they just put a cast. Because I remember when they casted it, it didn't feel any better.
Oh my God.
It was like, dude. I was like, this is like crazy. It just
God
kept
bless
getting
you,
worse and worse.
My God.
But I was, I was 18. I didn't know any better. I didn't know, it wasn't talked about of losing a leg at that point. It was just, holy shit, what the hell is going on? Why is this hurt so bad? So to fast forward a little bit, like, maybe a couple hours after that, my mom never goes to watch any of the races just because I would get hurt a lot and it was just not her thing. So we were in Pittsburgh. My dad drove from Pittsburgh with my brother, because my brother was racing too, back to New Rochelle, which was like 8 hours. They go to pick my mom up and then bring her back because things were worse than we expected. And while he was going that way, on his way back or whatever, they came in, the doctors came in and checked the pulse, and they couldn't find anything. They were like, we got nothing here. We have to rush you in right now. So they rushed me into like an emergency surgery. So I was rushed in while I didn't even have any family, nobody even at the hospital. I was there by myself. But they brought me into the surgery. While I was in the surgery, the first one was 20 hours. So while I was in there, my parents made it back before I got out. When they got back, they left. Or my dad left the hospital thinking like still that I just had a broken leg. When he got back, they had already opened everything up to look inside, and that's when they told him, they're like, listen, I think he's gonna lose his leg. Like, this is like way worse than we thought in here. I was still under at the time, but my dad like passed out in the waiting room. My mom's screaming, I don't understand. we thought this was a broken leg. Well, you know, whatever. Things just escalated like immediately. So I get out of the first surgery. It was the craziest thing. They still had everything like open. Like they didn't even like sew me back up. It was like an external fixator. So I had like this box that they had drilled into my shin bone, and it was just like basically made to like lock me into place. But the wound was still open. So it was almost like unfinished business. And
you could see this?
yeah. So I was awake. I could see the blood, the muscles. Like it was just one of my buddies. He and this was like around the time when we had phones, but well, yeah, there was I don't know. I didn't have a good phone. None of my friends had any. So one of my buddies had this picture of my leg on his phone, which I wish I still had it. And it was like took it on a BlackBerry. The quality was crap, but you could see it was just red. Like my whole leg was just red, like cut open on the side. And I don't remember the time frame from the first surgery to the second one, but within that time, I think maybe it was like a couple days. That was when my parents had closer. Sorry. Yeah. That was when my parents had told me, they were like, all right, well, you know, it took them a couple days to be able to tell me that losing my leg was even like going to be a thing. So
hold on, days?
Yeah, they waited.
They waited.
Yeah,
days?
Because they just didn't know. Yeah. I mean, I guess, you know, looking back, I would imagine that's not an easy thing to tell your kid, but they were like, they didn't want the doctor to say it. Like they wanted to be the ones to be like, hey, listen, like things aren't as good as we think, and there's a good chance that you're going to lose your leg, but they have some things that they could do to, you know, try to not make that happen. So this, you know, at that point, it was like, okay, the next surgery was a bypass. So they took an artery from my left leg and they put it in the right leg to try to get, you know, fix it, repair it, get some blood flow. A day or two passed. That didn't work. Then I went in for my third surgery. They put like a stent in just to kind of open things up. A couple days, that didn't work. So then at that point, they're like, all right, well, we exhausted all our options. You got to make this choice. You want to keep it, which at that point, my toes were blue. I had no movement. It was super painful. This was like 2 or 3 weeks in at this point. And it was like, okay, I mean, it was a tough decision, but it was a no-brainer. Like, it was like, okay, they said, like, at some point or another, you're going to have to cut this off. So it's either you do it now or you do it in, like, you know, 6 months. And you're going to have the worst 6 months of your life. I was like, okay, I don't even know, you know, things are happening so quick. All right, now can I walk again? Can I, you know, riding the dirt bike is way out of the question. I was just like, how do I even go back to being a normal person at this point? I'm going to have one leg. So these were all the questions.
And you're so young too, man.
Yeah, I just didn't know, you know, which I think being young helped me looking back on it. You know,
so?
I just like, you know, I always try to look at the bright side, and I'm like, I'm going to have a prosthetic for longer than I had my real leg. So I think being young, I was adaptable, and mentally was just stupid and naive. And if this happened to me now and I had to go and get a job or do something and, you know, like working at the gym, all the hours that I'm there to be able to relearn how to walk, like if I would have been the age I am now, it would have been a totally different story. When you're young, like you got time. I had all summer to figure this thing out. I had, you know, school. I wanted to go back to school, whatever, but I was young enough that I could still mold my life. And, you know, as you get older, you got to kind of figure it out a little bit more. So I think being young kind of, you know, helped me. And I had that energy and I had that just spunk, I guess, that you kind of lose as you get older. So I look at it as me being young as a positive. I think I was the perfect age for this to happen. But the fourth surgery was, you know, I went in with 2 legs. It was a quick surgery. I came back out, and it was just the craziest thing. The hardest part initially was like looking at it. You know, like my eyes adapting to seeing one leg was like crazy. Like I'm like, wow. You know, I can smile about it now, but at the time I was like, holy shit. There's one, you know, like I had the bed sheet on and the one foot you could see it, and the other thing, there's nothing there. So it was just like, but I felt good. I got out of the first that surgery. I was like, this thing is finally off me. I'm not in pain. And it's amazing what motivation, like pain is such a strong motivator to the point where I was like, well, at least I'm not in pain anymore. Like, I'm like, okay, you know, I'll deal with it. But the pain I was in before for 2 weeks was so severe that I was just like, at least I don't feel that anymore. So I had a 5th surgery. They took a skin graft. They cleaned everything up. And then they just sent me on my way. So I was in there for a month. And then I was out, and it was right the beginning of summer. So I graduated from my hospital bed. I didn't go to prom. I didn't go to after prom. I didn't do any of that stuff, which I really didn't even care. I just wanted to like get out, go hang out with my friends. Like I was 18, you know, it was like I was in the hospital. It's almost like being in jail, you know, like you don't know what's going on outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had my phone, I had my laptop, whatever.
Mm-hmm. You're in a bubble.
It was just like, I was in a bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm like, I want to go see what's going on. You know, it's the summer. Like, I'm ready to roll.
Mm-hmm.
So I just, got out of the hospital. We drove all the way back home. And then it was just like,
what's that ride like back home?
It was crazy because
who's in the car?
I think we were all in the car. My mom, my dad, my brother. Yeah, they all everybody wanted to be there when I got out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure there was a full car. And I just remember like at my graduation, like people had Team Max on their cap, and like people were taking pictures, with like they were posting things. Hey, Max, this is for you, blah, blah, blah. They made like a whole announcement. My brother and sister went up to get my diploma. So they told the whole graduating class, everybody knew that I was like losing a leg and having this crazy thing. So when I was coming home, it was like huge news for like the whole city, which is crazy to think about now. But I'm like, I had the newspaper was there, the news was there. Like it was just like a big deal in my town. And I was never like a popular kid. I just kind of stayed to myself. I did my school, my sports, whatever. This was like, I had, the coolest people in the school, which, whatever. But looking back, I'm like, that's a big deal. But now I couldn't care less.
Right, yeah.
But, you got all these people hitting you up. Yo, I'm coming by to see you. People that I'd never even talked to. But it was just, they wanted to be there, which whatever their motive of being there may have been, whatever. But I just took everything as love, and I was just like, all right, you want to come hang out? I mean, you never talked to me ever, but now that I'm like a big deal, you want to come talk, whatever, I'm there.
Yeah,
I'm there.
Yeah.
So
you're being humble.
Yeah, I was just like, listen, I'm locked up in the house. I'm on crutches. You want to come visit me? I'll take all the guests I can get. So I was home.
That was the whole summer like that?
Yeah, I didn't have, I was in a wheelchair, and then literally within like 2 days, I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I went right to the crutches, and then the whole summer I was on crutches. But I was getting invited to parties. Like it was like, it was like nothing I had ever experienced. It was like anywhere I wanted to go. I had like, I don't know if you're familiar. Well, I'm sure you are. Like Jadakiss?
Yeah.
Okay, so I knew somebody that knew him. One of my buddies was like a producer. His dad was a producer. He got me in touch with him. He was like sending me merch. He was calling me on the phone. I was talking to him on the phone.
Jadakiss?
Yeah, it was like my favorite rapper ever.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, dude, him, Styles P, they were all like, could call them. Like I was talking to Jadakiss on the phone, and he's like, yo, in his voice, that raspy voice, he's like, my buddy's friend's name was Scram. And he's like, yo, Scram told me that you're up at, I had a commission for a little bit, like hold your head, just motivating stuff, quick little phone calls. Like this is a cool. So right away it turned into, I had that support system to make it like something cool, and like I said, I was naive and dumb to where I'm like, all right, like I lost a leg, but I just talked to Jadakiss on the phone, you know, like
you should send them a message, man.
I know
you should.
They were
like,
posting tweets about me. It was like all kinds of crazy stuff, Instagram stuff. I was like, it was like looking back, I'm like, it's crazy that it was that to that extent.
Yeah.
But it just was not. It was kind of an unheard of thing for somebody to like lose a leg and you know whatever. So
yeah.
So I was riding that wave. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to parties. I was hanging out. There was girls coming over the house. I was just like,
dude,
whatever. I was like a local celebrity.
Yeah.
So it was cool. Like to this day, I'm like, that really wasn't that bad of a summer. I just I had a big adjustment, but.
Yeah. No, so the reason why I was asking you, what was the ride home like? The reason why I'm asking you that is because, like, as a parent, like I have a daughter, she's 6 years old, right? Dude, I can't imagine, like, clearly you're in pain and you're going through tons of things, right? Like this is traumatic, right? And then from a parent, like, man, like your parents must have just been, I can't even imagine what they must have felt like. You know what I mean?
I think, so the way that you look at it is different than the way that I look at it. And I think until I have my own kids, I don't think I'm going to be able to relate the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I think as I get older, it's a little bit easier for me to see, you know, the pain in their eyes that I'm sure they had and the feelings they felt. I think my dad carried a lot of guilt with him because he was the one that brought me into the sport.
Mm-hmm.
I think my mom had animosity towards my dad through the whole situation. But at the same time, I think it really helped. It brought my family together because they had a common goal, which was, you know, get me back to normal, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think they each served, you know, their purpose in that. And they did a fantastic job. Like to this day, I'm like, I never seen two human beings work so well at doing something together, which was putting me back together, essentially. My dad's very handy. So once I ended up getting a leg, him tinkering with things, and he was just like, whatever we needed fixed, he knew how to do it. My mom was very big on the emotional side and the mental side and keeping me like engaged in my recovery. And I think they played such a crucial part that there's no way I would have been where I am, you know, obviously without that. And I'm blessed because not a lot of people have that support. But
what's your dad's name?
Alex.
And your mom?
Doreen.
Yeah. God bless you both.
Yeah.
Alex and Doreen. Can't imagine where you had to pull that strength or tenacity from to be there for Max, but thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
and
man.
I'm sure they will too. They, you know, I can imagine, and looking back on it. So, you know, the things kind of, exposed themselves as time went on. So one of the things that, and it kind of hits me a little bit now that I'm older, is I remember my dad being like, he was, cause when I first got back home from the hospital, my bedroom was on the first floor and our bathroom was on the second floor.
Oh shit.
So I would, and I was mobile. Like I would just hop around. I still, to this day, I do that. I'm just like, all right, if I'm not going to, if I can hop somewhere, you know, let's say I got to take a leak in the middle of the night, I'd just hop to the bathroom. So that's what I would do. I would wake up and I would just hop to the bathroom. And he says, he's like, for literally months, like he's like, I would hear you hopping up the stairs to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. And he's like, it would just like rot me to my core. He's like, I just that stuck, you know, with him to the point where the way that he coped with that was he made, they took some money and they put a bathroom downstairs, like his work office. He turned it into a bathroom. So I had my bedroom and then his office became my bathroom. And so, you know, that was his way. I told her, I was like, Dad, I don't need, like, I can hop up the stairs. I don't care. Like I'm, you know, I was athletic enough that I could just move on my arm with my arms, whatever. And he's like, no. He's like, I can't anymore. Like I need to sleep. I can't keep hearing it. And so they built the bathroom and it was, you know, it was like the nicest part of our whole house, but it was my bathroom. And, you know, so they did stuff like that to kind of cope.
Right, for sure.
But I can imagine some of the other things, you know, I mean, even to this day, we never really, we're kind of past it in a sense, you know. I was able to kind of cross that bridge to where I feel like I was able to make, you know, turn a positive into a negative with the help of my support. But, you know, it was, I can only imagine being a parent. And I don't think I'm going to, you know, I feel like you can relate to that more than I even can.
Dude, even like as you're saying it, like I want to cry. Like, and anyone who knows me intimately will tell you that dude don't cry for shit. I don't, dude.
Yeah.
There's only like a few things that trigger me.
Right.
Things like this, things with like children, innocent women and children. And I can't see, like, I have a hard time when there's like elderly people crying.
Right.
Like if you ever watched like a World War II documentary.
Yeah.
And dude, that just.
Well, there's certain things that trigger you.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like.
But hearing this story, and I don't mean to cut you off.
No.
In the day that you're blessed to be a parent, you'll understand.
Oh, I
like
can imagine.
This whole experience will come back to you because it's the wildest thing, dude. It's you could think like you have nothing else to give. You have no more emotion, no more love. You're just like, I'm cool, dude.
Yeah.
And then
happens,
then you get blessed to be a parent, and it's just,
dude, I'm excited for it. I say it all the time. I love kids. I can't wait to have kids, but I feel like that's the type of thing that I want to be the best human I can be for that child, you know, boy, girl, whatever it is. I want to make sure that, okay, like I'm good with myself, because a lot of times I feel like parents will put their own burden onto the, you know, not purposely, but just accidentally put their own shit on their kid. And, you know, you could put a kid in a rough situation. And I'm like, I want to be able to provide for this kid that financially, emotionally, mentally, like I want to be there, you know, obviously with a partner, with my wife, whatever, but the two of us working together, that's something that I can't wait to have. But I'm like in no rush.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like right now I'm lining up my ducks with the gym, with all this stuff. And that's my number one priority. But I know once that next chapter comes, I'm going to be fully dedicated to that. And then I think at that point, I'll go through another revelation with my life with like, holy shit, with the, you know, the leg thing, to be like, wow, I can't even imagine that happening to my kid. And then I think that will even give me more respect for my parents and that whole situation, because I know that wasn't easy for them.
Brother, just wait. Because I always tell folks, I've mentioned it on the podcast a trillion times already, the natural order of things. Just the natural order of how things just progressively stay in line. You, like, to your point, you want to be a dad, you think about it. Like when that opportunity comes your way, you're going to reflect, like to your point, you're going to reflect back on that and you'll be like, wow, dude, like my parents were so strong. My parents were this or that. Because, dude, like things like that happen. Like people divorce, people leave each other, like things happen, man. Like it's, because again, it's affect. That's what I was asking. What was the conversation like in the car heading home? Because it's the first time. It's the first time that you guys are heading home together.
Yeah.
Right after this thing happened, where it's just like, fuck, like, what do we talk about?
They, and it's more so my dad. My mom's a little more like on the realistic side, but my dad's very glass half full type of deal. Always. He's always been like that. And I think a lot of, I mean, like I said, they both work together, but they're very big on like mentally, mental strength and being able to persevere. And I think, you know, I mean, I love, even to this day, I don't think I would, you know, ride like I ever, you know, like I did. Like I'm not going to put myself in that situation to get hurt or anything like that. But there's times when I'll just go in the gym and I'll just make like the hardest workout I can think of just to put myself in that, like I want to quit type of deal, just to feel that again. Sometimes it's good to go into the pain cave and feel, you know, life gets real comfortable. We got Amazon that delivers stuff to your door. Like things are easy. every once in a while, it's nice to make things difficult so you can appreciate the other side of the coin. And I think my dad's, both of them have really instilled that in me, but they were all about that big time when I was coming home and, that through that couple month period. And I had a lot to learn as a young man learning how to cope with my own feelings and my adversity. It was just, there was nights where we cried together, like, what are we doing? What, how did this happen? And you get a little bit of, up and down, which is, you got to feel these emotions, and it's not, not shy away from them, but learn to embrace them and cope with them. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be, feel down, but how do you get through that? And how do you recover from that? And I feel like a lot of people struggle with being able to, a lot of people that I meet, it's like they have anxiety, they have this, they take this medication, this. I'm so against all of that. I mean, granted, if you need it, whatever. Everybody live their life. But I've always been like, I can figure this out. I'd like to think that this leg situation this is the hardest thing I'm ever going to go through. And I went through it at 18. So the rest of life is just going to be smooth sailing. And that helps me kind of, with business, with certain things, having tough conversations. Like, I'm like, I already kind of paid my dues. I just got it. The rest of this is just little trickle up and downs. But the big one was already paid. So thinking like that makes me feel like I have the world on my side. So, and I don't think I was born that way. I think that was my parents teaching me how to think that way.
That is a powerful outlook. That's incredible, man.
Thank you.
That is incredible, man. I mean, let me just gather myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let me just gather myself.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead. I knew we were going to have a good conversation.
Oh, man. Did you have a girlfriend at this time?
No girlfriends. I was just kind of, like I said, I was riding the wave. It was like, I went from nothing, I was just like I wasn't like a loser, but I wasn't getting half as much attention to then, I come back home and there's 10 of them coming to hang out. And I'm like, okay, well, and then I ended up, which is crazy. I hope she never sees this, but I ended up, there's this like literally the hottest girl in my whole high school. When I got invited to go to the X Games.
Talk about it.
Dude, she was there. She flew to California.
Really?
Yeah. Before me and her were like talking, and she would, reach out when I was home. Hey, whatever. But we never had really anything. And then when I got invited, she was like, flew right out there. And when I got there, then at that point I started like dating her, and she became one of the first like girls that I actually dated. But she was like my high school crush for she was like
really
cheerleader, the whole 9 yards type of deal. And I was just like right under my arm. I was ready to go. I was like, however I got here, I got it.
Yeah, definitely don't mention her name. Like everybody will see your Instagram. Dude, that's wild, man. Yeah. So when you went to the X Games, your accident had already happened?
Yeah, that's why I got invited. It was
Really?
it was an amputee race.
Really?
So I was racing all a bunch of amputees. I had actually, so you said like, how did that happen? There was a race that I did prior to that, which was like a qualifier type of deal. And it was all amputees. And all these other amputees had kind of been amputees for a while. I was like the new guy. And there was like there was a couple good guys, whatever. But there was one guy that would win this thing like every year. And they just kept telling him, hey, there's this kid, he's coming up. And at the time, like, so this was, so my accident was May. This was a year later. So I had already gotten back on the bike, which is a whole separate story. We figured out how to, I had to make some changes to the bike and whatever. And my dad did that. But I got back on 6 months after the accident.
Why is that? Because you weren't able to use your back brake?
Yeah. So I would go up to the jump. So the first day that I got back on the bike, we just did it totally normal. The bike, we didn't take anything off. I just had my foot and I put it in the boot. I just did everything normal. I'm going up to the jump and I just keep hitting the brake. And I was like, this is so sketchy. Like, I'm just going to, and I can't feel it. I'm like, I'm going to end up like going over the bars. I keep slowing down. So we took the brake off. I rode with just the front brake. I was like, okay, this is better, but there's got to be a way to rig this up so that way I can have my brake. And that was where my dad came into play. Again, he's like the tinker, man. He just was like, I'll figure something out. So he rigged up a system where I had like a bicycle, back brake, front brake, and the clutch. So this hand was doing a lot, but it was better than having no back brakes. So he rigged up this system, and then that was when I started to like get my speed back. And I went to this race in Michigan with all the amputees, and this was my first race back. Hadn't raced, hadn't done anything. So I was nervous as shit. I was just like, it's all amputees. They were hyping me up to like win it, whatever. And I went and we raced, and the guy was in front of me, and I passed him and I beat him, the main guy. And that was kind of put me on the map. And then from that point forward, I got invited to the X Games like a couple months after that. And the X Games was like the big event that was like televised, and it was all the same guys. So I went into that thinking like, I'm going to win this thing again. No problem. Cocky kid, whatever. And when I got there, dude, the lights, the cameras, I just like shit the bed. Dude, to this day, my brother rubs it in on me all the time. He's like, if you would have just got third place, you would have had a medal and you could have hung that up in the gym. I got fourth. I was in like second or third and I crashed. And I was just like, I couldn't take the pressure, dude. I was just like, I was 19 and everything was just too much. Yeah. It was way too much. Yeah. And
the new girlfriend's there watching.
Yeah, dude, she's in the stands. Everything that you could think was just the worst. And I'm like, this could not be any worse. Like more pressure on me.
Crazy, bro.
And so I just crumbled like a ton of bricks. And I mean, the experience was awesome. I would never, especially because I didn't know this at the time, but it was the last one. They never had it again after that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I thought like, all right, I got fourth place. I'll come back next year and I'll crush this.
Yeah, yeah.
They never had it again, dude. So man. I was just like, you know what? I was there for the experience.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what it was. Yeah. And I appreciate what I had. I went in way too cocky. I should have like pulled the reins a little bit, but it is what it is.
Yeah. What was your strategy? Just like, fuck it, like I'm just gonna win.
Yeah, dude. I was just like,
that was your strategy. I'm gonna win.
Yeah. I thought, like, I was like, I got this thing wrapped up. I come around the first turn. I'm in like fifth place. I'm like, all right, well, I got some work to do. I got to pass some of these guys. And I couldn't get around any of them. And it was a short race. Like the time was just ticking. And I'm like, I know I'm faster than all these guys here, but the track was super tight. So we normally ride on like a big outdoor track. This was in this basketball court. So imagine, 10 dirt bikes on a tiny little court, that they built the track. And I was just like, I can't get around them. And I'm just like, I'm stuck here. And I just couldn't put it together. Yeah. And then I pulled off and I was pissed, but I was like, whatever. The other thing too is they paid some big money for first place. They give you like 15 grand.
Whoa.
So I was like, that would have been nice being a 19-year-old kid getting a paycheck like that. So I think I got 5 grand for fourth, which covered our expenses for the trip. Mm-hmm. And that was it. It was like I broke even. Mm-hmm. It was just for the experience, which looking back, that's what it was supposed to be. I was there. But
did you have to like go see like a therapist or anything like that?
No.
Like any kind of like mental therapy? None of that?
And I recommend that. I think, if somebody is in the same shoes I was in, 100% they should. I don't think that was a good thing. But I don't know. I just was like, I'm always very challenge oriented. Mm-hmm. And I just looked at it as like another thing to try to figure out. Like, I don't like when people doubt me. I had some of the, doctors in the hospital like, oh, you won't ride again. You won't ride again. They're like, you'll walk, you'll run, you'll do, but you're not going to ride again. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, well, I have to walk and I have to run in order to ride my bike. So I'm going to figure out how to do all three of those things. And that was just how I looked at it.
What was the physical therapy like?
That was probably
Was that like every day?
Yeah. It was like quick, but a lot. So it was a lot in like 1 month. I would just go like every day and just like we would work a lot of hips, teach you how to use the leg, little bit this, that. I remember we got to a point where I could like run around the facility outside. And she was like, all right, I don't think you even need to be here anymore. The rest of this, you're just going to figure out on your own. So I was like, okay. So I went to therapy for like a month and that was it. The rest of it was just figure it out. And I remember I was a twig. Like I was real tiny. I can actually, if you want to like pop pictures in, I have a couple
send them.
out of the hospital. Dude, I was like this big.
Yeah, send them. Yeah.
And
I'll edit everything down.
Yeah, I was tiny. And I remember I was like, you know, the same thing. I had the girls coming, you know, I'm like, all right, I got to start lifting some weights. And then that was when I was like, all right, I'm going to the gym. And I just upper body, just whatever I could do. And I just, you know, kind of built myself back up from that point.
How does it work when like when you're doing workouts, like leg workouts and stuff like that? Are you just like stronger on your right side?
Like now you're saying? So one of the things I struggle with is being able to distribute the weight proportionately and the effort proportionately. My left leg is extremely stronger than my right leg. Like it's like the contrast is just too drastic to the point where it's always going to do a little bit more of the work. It's just like I like to like barbell back squat. I deadlift. I just do a lot of compound lifts. And when I do that, I just try to evenly push as best as I can. So it's more of like a mental thing, but I don't have any exercises that I'm like, like I can't really do that. You know, I just kind of, I work out in my own gym and we don't have any leg press. We don't have anything like that. Everything is barbell and like dumbbell stuff. So that's what I do. I squat like, you know, 2 or 3 days a week. I deadlift, RDLs, split squats, just all these same lifts that I incorporate with, you know, my workouts in the gym. I do them myself and I feel strong. It's the strongest I've ever felt, the best I've ever felt. So, you know, I have no excuses. I just,
wow, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Max, that's a wild story. You know that, right?
It's wild hearing it. You know, I haven't told it in a while, but that.
Dude, and thank you for sharing, by the way. Oh, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing. I mean,
I don't hold back.
Dude, so like part of this whole thing with Spark.N.Stride, right? Like wellness, mental health, resiliency, personal development. Those are like the core pillars with these conversations are centered on. And then, you know, like I would get people say like, oh my God, like, are you going to just, you're going to talk about wellness? Like you're going to talk about, like wellness means a whole bunch of different things to a bunch of different people. In terms of like being resilient, I mean, like, wow, listen to what you're saying. I don't know how I would have been able to, I don't know what my reaction would have been to such a situation. And then my background's a little different. Like I didn't have my dad in my life. I grew up without having my father.
Okay.
My mom did the best that she could with what she had, but we had very little. So having to experience something like that with my background and my childhood, shoosh. I don't know, man. I don't know what that would have been like.
So, okay. So you look at something like that and you say, look at both of our situations, right? So not that we had a ton of money, but I had both of my parents. We were financially okay. There's always food on the table. We got to go on vacations, whatever. I was dealt my adversity, and it was in the form of a physical disability. You were dealt your adversity. There's not one any easier than the other. They both create the person that you are. Who's to say I would have handled that situation better than I think God gives the people the battle they can handle. Everybody needs adversity in their life. Like that's what creates you to be who you are. You can't, you know, you don't grow in your comfort zone. And I always say that. And every time I have any chance to put myself in a situation where I don't like to be, I try to do that because I know this is an opportunity for growth and they don't come all the time. Mine was forced. Yours was forced. You had no say in that. I mean, I guess I could say I had a say, you know, I maybe didn't ride, but it was inevitable. It was going to happen.
It was an accident.
Yes.
Right.
So you know, looking back, I'm like, this made me who I am. That made you who you are.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, okay, well, how do you respond to that adversity and how do you learn to spin it? And I think it's not something that everybody does, but I think it's something that everybody can do. And there's different levels of adversity. There's different types, but at some point or another, your life is going to be difficult, whether it's in the beginning, whether it's in the middle, whether it's at the end, you're going to face some struggle. And, you know, a lot of it, that's how I try to even motivate people to work out. Like, I'm like, listen, how do you feel right now? If you're overweight, like that sucks. To wake up and not feel good about yourself and struggle to move, like you're in it. You're in the tough spot now. It doesn't have to be for the rest of your life. Let's get you on the other side and feel good. And could be the flip side. There's people that, oh yeah, I have great genes. Everything's fine. I could eat what I want. I could do what some point that's going to catch up to you. You might not be in the struggle yet, but at some point it's going to catch up. And so it's just like, you know, when do you want to have your tough? You know,
when do you want to have your tough?
Yeah.
You should put that on a shirt. I like the shirt, by the way.
Do you? Thanks.
Yeah. I'll wear the one you got me on.
Yeah, I got you. On the next one.
I like it. Dude, such a man. That was. Thank you for sharing. Again,
absolutely,
Max.
Absolutely,
like, wow,
man.
Dude,
I love it.
Yeah. The reason why I was asking you about, like, did you go to any kind of like therapy? Because I'm just wondering what. I'm just curious what kind of information the therapist would have shared with what sort of trauma you were going through, and not only that, like maybe like family therapy too, because again, this is affecting everyone.
Yeah.
The entire group dynamics in your household changed that day.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone had to adapt. Your dad had to adapt with you going up and down the stairs.
Yeah.
And
everybody's role. My brother was, you know, I mean, to this day, like he, so I know we spoke about this like off air. So my brother's like an Instagram influencer, I guess you could say. He's got like over 500,000 followers. So he's got a huge following. He gets all this limelight now. And at the time when this first happened to me, it was all on me. He was in like the shadow kind of. He was like my shadow. He was always following me around. He was always next to me, always with me. He wrote, he did everything. And it's funny now because now the roles have kind of reversed. And I always say it. I'm like, when we go out, like we'll go to the bar, whatever, people are like, flock to him. Dude, he gets like crowds of people. They want to take pictures with him, all this. It's crazy.
He gets recognized?
All the time.
Wow.
Dude, like you wouldn't believe. We'll go to like, we were in Mexico, me and him. People knew who he was. Florida, California, everywhere. Europe, people will know. Like he's just that big, which is crazy. And now I'm in his shadow. And I'm like, to me, I'm like, I don't care. You know, I had my time. He was behind me. I'll let him have his time. I'm behind him and I'll just ride there. I don't need that fame. I don't need any of that. I focus on my stuff, but everybody's role in the situation was different. You know, he was like my little support buddy doing everything. My sister was, you know, our relationship developed a little bit more once I had this accident, and she kind of does her own thing. But yeah, to your point, it's like everybody had their own little say in what went on. And now I would confidently say like all our relationships are the best they've been. So, you know, I just moved out. I live, you know, down the street actually. And I lived with my brother for years. That kind of took its course, and it was time, you know, two full-grown men in a tiny little house. Like we were butting heads. It was like, all right, it's my time to go.
The natural order.
Yeah. And he was kind of coming up, and he's checking me, and
yep.
I get it. You know, there's
the
whatever
natural order, man.
And it was my time to flock. So I moved out. I got my own little apartment. He's the man of the house over there now with, you know, my mom, whatever, and our relationship's fine. I you know, me and my mom are good. I go mountain biking with my dad all the time. Everybody's got good relationships, you know.
That's so great to hear, man.
Yeah,
that is really.
It
really
took
good
a while, but it is good, and we never were bad, but just we're the best we've been.
Wow, that's great.
So
man.
it's good.
Yeah. I think when people think about like resiliency, because it's such like a buzzword, it means so many different things to so many different people,
Yeah.
right? So I think you really summed it up really eloquently on how your level of resilience or what happened to you is no different than me.
Yeah.
It's just we just had to adapt to like a different
Yep.
thing, right?
100%.
But I guess the key thing in there is like adapting, because you could have chose to do a million other things in terms of like coping with your accident. You could have went on to like hard drugs.
And I know people that have
alcohol,
been in that
right?
situation, and it's like, I'm like, thank God,
Mm-hmm.
because that you're making a bad situation even worse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you think you might be helping with your temporary, the temporary fix, and I get it. It's not an easy thing to lose a leg or to lose a father, to lose something in your life. And then it's like, okay, well, how do I figure this out? You sometimes you got your back against the wall, but that you can either break or you can shine. And, sometimes it's just a matter of, I'm not going to let myself break.
Mm-hmm.
You look at like, what's the Rocky quote? It's not about how hard you hit. It's about how many times you keep getting up and you just, you go. It's like, all right.
I just felt like you like quizzed me real quick. I was like, I'm sitting here, I'm like,
which one
I'm like, damn, which one's the quote? Where's he going with this? Nah, I got you though, man. Like yeah, man. Damn, it's pretty solid, dude. So, and I know we're probably like bouncing around, skipping over things,
That's
but
all right.
how do you go from getting yourself into a healthy mental state after this traumatic injury or experience, and then like how do we get to amped? Like how does
so now we're bridging the gap.
yeah
Okay,
how do we how does that happen?
So you want me to kind of run you through the story?
Bro, like we don't
all right.
like
all right, cool.
as enough
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be a physical therapist. That was what I wanted to do. I spent a lot of time in PT, not just with this accident, other ones.
right.
And I just liked helping people. I liked medicine. It just made sense. I couldn't get into any schools anywhere. It was just so difficult, so competitive. And honestly, like they weren't made, right out of school, the amount of debt I don't know. It just didn't line up financially and it didn't make any sense. So at the time I was like, while I was trying to apply for PT school, I became a trainer. I was like, all right, this is like, something I could do on the side. I'll get some clients, make some money. It's not set hours, whatever. So I worked at a gym in Freehold, and I would go back and forth. I would do my thing. Then they were going to open a location in Belmar. And as I was kind of working up the ranks in there, they were like, listen, you're going to manage it. It's a salary position. And I was like, okay, that's a little more appealing. Maybe that's something that I don't want to be a trainer for the rest of my life, but it's just another step in, progression. So right then, as like they were about to open it up, like within a couple months, COVID hits, wipes everything out. So now which looking back, I mean, obviously COVID was terrible, but for me, it was like the best thing. Again, I was put in the same situation where it was adversity. A lot of people broke, and obviously I didn't have as much to lose at the time. I was just like a kid. I didn't have any, I didn't have a house. I didn't have a gym. I was just like, all right, I'm just going to go. So I put an ad out on Facebook that I would go to people's houses and just train them. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was like, just give it a shot. I had a couple cones, and I would just go and make a workout. This thing just blew up. It was just like comment. Oh, come to my house. I was like, all right, I'm going. I charged $10 a person. I would show up. There'd be groups of like, it was mostly moms, stay-at-home moms that were just, people that had nothing to do at that time. So everybody wanted to be outside the house. I was like socially distant workout, whatever. So I would make $50-$60 a house. I would go to 3 or 4 in a day. I was like, damn, it's the most amount of money I ever made in my life. And I'm doing what I love. Like, this is awesome. I'm like barely working.
Mm-hmm.
So after a while, I knew, okay, at some point or another, I'm going to not be able to do this. This is all outside. So once it gets cold, that's it. I'm done. I got to go work back in the gym. So the gyms opened back up. The Belmar gym that he said was going to open fell through. And so the winter rolls around, and this is 2020. So that summer into that winter. I run into a buddy of mine that I used to work with, and he goes, yeah, my dad's got a spot in Manasquan, a building with a room in there that's like for rent. It's tiny, but maybe you can make something happen. So I didn't think anything of it. I went there. It was like a 600 square foot room, blue carpet, the ugliest thing you could imagine, but it was my starting point. And so January of 2021, after I had kind of built it all out, I put some, all the money that I had raised that summer from doing the outside stuff, I just dumped all of it into this room. So again, it took like a little bit of gamble, but you got to crack some eggs if you want to make an omelet. So I was ready to go. I dumped all the money in. It was like 10 grand. I built this room out, and we opened the first Amped January 4th of 2021. I ran it that whole year, just building it up, just little by little. I mean, I was going door to door, people's houses, like anything I could do to get one additional body in that room was like, it was like I just kept giving myself raises, like as an entrepreneur, like, it's like every additional person that buys something from me, I just gave myself a raise. That feeling was addicting. And it was at that point, I didn't know to what extent things were going to go, but one thing led to another. I was still working at that other gym. And then, and this was, again, something that needed to happen. They let me go. So they were like, listen, and I'm still friends with the owner. His name's Anthony. The gym was Seth's, awesome gym. They're a little more central, but, and I still talk to him all the time. I ask him, he's been doing it longer than me, so I pick his brain. He was like, listen, just go do what you got to do. At the time, again, I was a little uneasy with the decision, but that's what had to happen. It forced me, again, I was put in a position where I was forced to act. And that was what I did. I just was like, all right, well, now I'm totally self-employed. And whatever money I make is all on me. There's no stable anything. So that forced me to kick it up a gear. I had more time because I wasn't coaching in freehold. And again, door to door, I would just like try to be everywhere. Talk to people. I do it in different ways now, kind of as you learn business, you learn what levers to pull and leverage and what things are going to get you more, time bang for your buck. So, but at the time I knew nothing. I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I would just read books, try to implement that, listen to podcasts, implement whatever I learned, and just action. Every day I was like, I have to do something that's going to move the needle and progress this business. And I would try every day. And if it was, 1 month, I started with 7 members. And then maybe, 2 months in, we had 15. We're okay. Well, we're making double what we made last month. And it was just, that's how I thought. And I was just, okay, if I could just grow a little bit at a time. My goal was to get 50 members by May. So that was like 5 months in. I had hit it. I was stoked. I was like, I could have. Meanwhile, looking back, I'm like, it was such a, small number, but it was huge for me at the time. And then that whole summer I worked, we opened, that was, Maria came in. She was working out there. And then a little bit after that, we opened the first real location in Brielle. That was where I signed a lease. It was like official. I dumped some real money into the place. I painted it, made it nice. And then as soon as we opened that place, I was like, this is my job. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to open as many of these things as I can. And that we opened the Brielle one April 23rd of 2022. And then I just opened another one in Belmar May 1st of 2023. And with the way this one's going, it's growing, awesome. I'm hoping to just open another one.
Dude, I love it, man.
Just keep going.
I love it, man. Do me a favor.
Sure.
Plug your website, plug your Instagram.
Cool.
Throw the address out there.
Yeah, so we're it's Amp Fitness. The website's ampfitnessnj.com. The Instagram is ampfitnessnj. Where else are we? I mean, we've got a Facebook. You know, we're Belmar, 611 Main Street. We're Brielle, 718 Union, Brielle.
That's gonna be New Jersey.
Yeah, New Jersey.
Yeah,
I forgot this.
Yeah,
This podcast.
yeah. This is an international podcast,
big.
bro.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yo, step up, dude. Bro. I love that. Man.
Thank you.
I love that.
Thank
man.
you.
I love that. Nah, man, that's solid stuff, bro. I love seeing just when people are passionate about what they're doing. I don't care what it is they're doing. If they're passionate, like you are now, and like just seeing success and things start to like unfold themselves.
Yeah.
Because here's the part no one tells you. That cannot be done with you sitting at home being down on yourself. Right. That's not where that happens. That happens with, like you said, knocking on the doors, getting the extra person in. Yeah. And also just when you have good energy about yourself, like you do, Max, like, dude, like it's the natural order of things. It's only going to come back to you.
Yep.
Putting the good stuff out into the atmosphere, folks start to, it's weird because
they gravitate towards it.
They gravitate towards it. And the folks that gravitate towards you naturally, those are your biggest advocates.
Yeah.
Dude, the folks who have been following Spark.N.Stride, and it's just the wildest thing. People were coming to me and they're like, oh yeah, like I found out about Spark.N.Stride through, I don't even know how they found out about it. But and then what keeps me kind of like passionate about what it is that I'm doing is just the positive feedback. And then also there's ways for you to kind of like, in this day and age, you can really see and your analytics and see like where you're going up in these different areas.
Yeah.
Every single analytic of Spark.N.Stride is just going up.
That's great.
That just tells me,
keep doing the right thing.
Keep doing what you're doing,
dude. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Listen, a podcast. This is an entrepreneur. This is a self-made thing, and a lot of times, at least in my experience, you want the next, the shiny thing. It's like, all right, well, what are we gonna do next? If something works, get really good at it and do it 1,000,000 times, because that's. You keep it simple, and just go. And that's in my experience with the gym. A lot of, businesses are very similar. You just get good at what you do. You find your niche and you just pedal to the metal. And that's worked for me, so far.
Nah, man, it's working for you, dude.
Yeah. It's like when you're younger, you almost don't really know what you want to do. And it's crazy because like, I always, like I said, I wanted to be a PT. Then it was, I want to be a trainer. And now I'm like, training people is probably like 20% of my job. The other 80% is the business, the sales, the marketing, the back end, the retention, all these things that I'm like, I'd have never thought I would be doing that. And I don't, not that I'm great at it, you just kind of learn as you go, but I'm like, I'm learning to love that side of things. And I'm like, look at it more of as a businessman than a trainer. Mm-hmm. Like obviously you got to put on a good show and have a good product, but you could have the best stuff in the world. If you don't get people in the door, you're not selling anything. So it's just like, okay, well, I got to learn how to sell what I'm good at. And it's just so many different hats. And I think I've learned more in these 2.5 years than I ever have through any video, book, anything. And that's just from doing it. Yeah. Getting in like you said, getting in the field, tying the boots up and just going.
Yeah, man. What have you done anything with the veteran community?
No, but I would love to do that.
Dude, we should team up.
I'm like it's so to a lot of, what I'm able to do is because of guys like yourself that obviously had these, some people have these unfortunate circumstances. They lose a leg, they lose an arm, whatever. And these prosthetics are developed like insane. So, there's an unfortunate need for them to be as good as they are. Mm-hmm. And, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without, that. So I'm all for that.
No, man. I think after people see and watch your story on here, and I mean, this is just one platform of many, right? Like, I don't know who else in our area is doing anything similar to like what I'm doing, but the more the merrier.
Yeah.
There's enough out there for everyone.
Absolutely.
And I think if we collectively coming together as a community, there's no telling, what we can accomplish. You know what I mean? The veteran community, that's something I think would be beneficial. I think there's value added to your brand and, networking within that community. Anything I could do to help, I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, I would. We'll exchange some info.
Absolutely.
I would love to do that.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool.
I'm in your corner with it.
Cool.
Easy stuff.
When did you start this?
When did I start Spark.N.Stride?
Yeah.
So believe it or not, man, I think my first actual video or episode went up maybe like a month and a half, 2 months ago.
No way.
Yeah.
So this is like fairly new.
Yeah, fairly new.
Okay.
Yeah. What took me the longest.
Wow, you did. This is pretty. You got this thing down pretty good in
Yeah,
a
bro.
short amount of time.
Brother, listen, hey, Spark.N.Stride, Dad.
Yeah,
Come
that's
on,
it, dude.
get to
We're
it.
in.
Yeah, man. So the whole concept is just like Spark is equates to just thinking outside the box,
Right.
staying motivated,
Just
whatever you like your spark for your gym,
right.
And then the stride part is how did you put it? How did you put it forward?
in motion?
How did you put it in motion?
Yeah.
So
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, I suffer with like extreme PTSD, anxiety.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does this I know like everybody's got their thing. So is this something that like kind of helps you through that?
100%.
Okay. Cool.
Dude, 100%.
Yeah.
The cool thing for me about doing this is all the folks that I get to meet, like yourself.
Of course.
Because I'm just continuously, and it's a little different, right? I'm older. I have a wife. I have a kid. I'm not going to be at the bar,
Right.
It's just, that's just not where you're going to find me now. I'll meet you for brunch or lunch or something like that.
Yeah.
But like, you're not going to catch me at Leggett's at 2 a.m. It's just,
it's not your atmosphere.
It's not my atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
This gives me the opportunity to still interact with folks, still get a chance to like network. Because a lot of times, you'll be at an event or somewhere, or let's just say like at a bar. Not everyone you meet is going to own their own business. Not everyone you meet is going to say, hey, man, I just started this gym. This is my story. This is in this next part of my life. This is where I want to focus my time and energy and these sorts of conversations, this sort of networking, and just see where we go from here.
Well, and also like, I feel like being in a situation like this, it's kind of like peels back layers of people that sometimes they don't even know. Like this is honestly the deepest I've ever dug into this story. I usually I have like an elevator pitch that I'll tell people if I say, oh, what happened? I give them a real brief summary. But to this extent, I never went this deep. So there's things, as we're talking, it's like, wow, that did, you kind of, the memories are there, but you almost jog them. And I would imagine, with some of your guests, you get people on here and it's like, they're learning things that were tucked away that they might not even knew they had in there.
That's a super good point. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, you have all these memories stored, but sometimes you need something to kind of peel them out.
Yeah.
And I think being in your situation, like you're gonna, and I hope this podcast just goes, dude, and you just
I hope
grow
so too.
and get a big following and get some awesome people on here, and you're gonna be a very educated guy.
Oh man, thank you, man.
After a couple years,
thank you, man. Thank you. So like, my biggest inspiration has been Nori from Drink Champs, and Joe Rogan, and Mike Tyson's in the middle,
right.
Hot boxing,
yeah.
So prior to retiring, I would have to my commute to the base here in Jersey, McGuire, was roughly like 45 minutes to 50 minutes every morning, which I didn't complain about, dude. Like, I'm just like, it's fine. I don't mind. Go. But I would listen to so much of these guys on the way to work, on the way home. And to be quite honest, your mind, dude, can play tricks on you. You can really think. It's almost you can manifest things, right? So I was just like, man, I think I can do that. But again, what would be my message, right? And then to a lot of my buddies, like, well, what's your target audience?
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm like, everyone's my target audience, but I get what they're saying. Like, you got to pick your niche or whatever. But no, like Joe Rogan, Nori from Drink Champs, Mike Tyson, hot boxing. Like those have been the top 3 like inspirations for me.
Yeah, which those guys are those are some of the biggest ones. Like,
Yeah,
dude,
man.
what an
Sky's the limit,
awesome-
dude.
Yeah,
Sky's the limit.
You go.
Yeah.
And the fact that I read this book one time, and it talked about the 10,000 hour rule, and it talked about how in order to become like a professional at something, you have to put in 10,000 hours. Now, granted, I'm sure that's probably different for everybody, but if you do 10,000 hours of something, you're going to be pretty damn good at it. Better than probably 90% of people that would do it. So it's just about, okay, well, how much time, how many hours of podcasting did I do to where, okay, yeah, I put together a phenomenal show and people want to listen to it and people are intrigued and it's just putting in the time, very rare you meet these people that pick things up like, out of the blue. Like it takes, you only see the tip of the iceberg, but the bottom of it's huge.
Huge.
It's just.
The other thing too, Max, like with all this stuff, right? Like with a podcast or anything, like, dude, like YouTube University, right? YouTube, bro, like phenomenal tool.
So much out
For
there.
our generation, whatever it is. But they can make it look really easy. They're like, oh yeah, you could buy these microphones and you buy these cameras and this is how you kind of set. Okay, that's just a fraction of it.
Tiny
right?
little piece.
The next part of it is, in my opinion, because you got to remember, like I'm doing this by myself. I don't have a team of people. I don't have anybody running my social media. I'm doing that. My marketing, I'm doing that. That's that, right? So with all that being said, when you look at how do you scale something like this, dude, there needs to be a constant flow of people to speak to. And not only that, but like they have to be interesting.
Yeah.
Right? I feel that everyone is interesting. And I feel that if you take the time, my mom used to say that people are books. And it's up to you to figure out how many books you're going to read.
Yeah, I'd never heard that, but that's a great analogy.
Right? Because dude, you could pick something up and you could like skim through it real quick. You could automatically go to the very back and you put it back on the shelf. And that's all the interaction you're going to have with that. If you actually took it, read through it, the acknowledgement, the chapters. Now you're committing your time to wanting to know.
Well-versed.
Right?
Yep.
And I think the same thing with people.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Instinctively, man, it could have just been like, hey, you have a gym called Amped. You had a tragic accident and you lost your leg. But hold on a second. In my mind, I'm like, whoa, there's so much more to that. Yeah. Right? Like, how do you...
Yeah, that's like the table of contents, like,
100%,
okay, look,
right?
this. But what got you to where, like you said, what got you to this position? And everybody's different. Everybody's got their story. Like you said, not everybody's an entrepreneur. They don't, not everybody works for themselves, but every person's got a story. And I guarantee you there's something you can learn about every person that will benefit you as a person. Yeah. And it's just like, okay, well, you're in the hot seat and you're learning and digging into these people to figure out, okay, like if you get one little piece of something from every person that you have on this show, like, dude, you're gonna that's a lot of nuggets. Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited, dude. I'm going out to California for a wellness event, wellness festival, and there's just so many things on the horizon. And then the amount of people that have been reaching out to me, it's incredible, man. It is absolutely incredible.
That's awesome.
So
it snowballs, man. It gets momentum. Yeah. And it's awesome when it does because, like, I remember, like I said, when I first started with the gym, it was like if I got one person, I was thrilled. Now, it builds a little momentum. It's got some legs. There's people reaching, I don't have to reach out to them. They're reaching out to me. And once you get to that point, I mean, not that I'm, there, but it's at least starting to get to that point. It's like, wow, it's nice. It's nice to look back and be like, I remember when I used to have to dig tooth and nail to get somebody to even step foot in this place. Mm-hmm. Now the class, a full class is like, this is awesome. Yeah. So just appreciating it too, and enjoying the ride.
It's pretty solid. Like as I'm sitting here across from you, like listening to you, and like I at your age, I was in the military. At your age, I was in the Air Force. And there's a part of me that wishes I would have had your level of like foresight for being an entrepreneur. I think I always, dabbled back and forth.
Yeah.
But because you're a part of something so huge, the enterprise is so large, being in the Air Force or being in a branch of service, you almost, your mindset is different because your mindset is more about the team, the mission.
It's very team-based.
Getting everything together. But a lot of what I learned throughout my 24 years is helping me right now.
Oh, without a doubt. And
Totally.
I think even the biggest, you look at like even just in history, some of the best leaders we ever had in this country, they were all people that were in some sort of armed forces or something. And just, it's important to know how to do things on your own, but it's also important to know how to work with a team. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the part where I think in my experience, like I'm struggling, which I think maybe in a way it's like kind of almost the opposite. So you were in, the Air Force, you worked with a team, you're going to be able to work well with others. I was myself always, no team sports, no nothing. So initially the business, I did well with that because I was good at working by myself and doing everything. I'll just workhorse through it and just, I don't care how tired I am, how hungry I am, I'll just work. Mm-hmm. Now I'm getting to the point in the business where I have to take other people on and be a little bit more of a leader and show them, okay, no, I need somebody to do this. So it becomes who, not how. And that's kind of where I'm at. Mm-hmm. And I feel like somebody like you would be better at that because you kind of were already in it. So it's not to say one better than the other. It's just there's steps to everything. And who knows which step better.
One thing that we learn when you're in a supervisory management role, especially in the military, is how to delegate. So what happens is that what they teach us early on is that as a leader, you must understand the strength in delegation, because if you do not delegate, like ultimately you're not being a true leader. Right. You have to lead by example, and in being able to delegate to your team to feel like you trust them. Yeah. Because if you're continuously going behind your team, you can't. You're not allowing them. You're not empowering them to 100%. Step into the position.
And there's going to be people on your team that, granted, like we talked about, it's good to know how to do everything, but it's impossible for you to be the best at everything. And there's going to be people on your team that, okay, you got this guy, he edits way better than you do. You know how to edit, but this guy's going to be able to edit super quick, whatever the case may be.
What's his name?
What?
The editing guy that's better than me? I'm messing. Dude, wherever you are, Mr. Editor, where's please, I need your help. Please send me an email, dude. Because the editing, oh my God, bro.
I can imagine.
Oh my God. Dude, I type with 2 fingers. I'm like,
the first person I hired at my gym was the social media guy. I was like, I want nothing to do with that. I'm like, what? Name your price. Yeah. I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah,
I
well
can't.
Spent money.
I don't
well
know
spent.
how. Yeah, sometimes like there's certain things that you just don't know how to do. You know, it's like, okay, well, I do need the thing's not going to take off if we don't get this guy. In. So it's putting the right people in the right spot and learning how to. I think delegation is so important, but I didn't. I'm still learning that. So
there's a bunch of stuff. I have tons of books around here. I could, and we should probably at least speak once a week.
Yeah.
I could, whatever I could share with you or whatever.
I love it.
But delegation is a big one. And then also one of the big ones is just like understanding group dynamics. So understanding that when you put a group together, there will be a level of like storming, norming, performing. There's another part that I'm missing. But in short, what it's saying is that when you put people together, there will be a storming phase.
Like friction?
Just a storming phase.
Okay.
Just, I got to get, it's like a bunch of dogs sniffing each other out.
They got to feel each other out a little bit.
It's just,
right.
It happens, right?
It's human nature.
Like if you and I are working together for the first time on a shift, we both show up to the gym at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
There's a specific way that you're doing things that I'm maybe not aware of.
Right.
Maybe you turn it on the music at a certain time.
Right.
You like the lights a certain way, whatever the case is, whatever. There's a storming part of it. Then there's a norming part where you're kind of like
starting to figure it out.
And then there's the end part is performing, meaning that everyone's gelling.
Yeah, which is obviously you want to get there as quickly as you can.
Yep, because there's money to be made, right?
Yeah.
Like if
Yep.
The biggest thing too with like a gym is in terms of like a team. When you're putting your team together, everyone may not be on the same sheet of music,
right?
And that's the natural order of things.
Right.
People see things differently. They express themselves differently. But what's important, especially with a gym, is that no one on the outside looking in has a direct pulse on what your group dynamics are, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does.
So
I think, and a lot of this is, so like I said, the businesses are very similar. So what we spoke about, before we got on air was you setting almost the tone of how the podcast is, right? Like you know how you want things done, and you have an idea of that, and the ability to keep that through, your expansion as you expand. And every once in a while, sometimes you got to go back to the roots and go, well, why are we doing this?
Mm-hmm.
What is it?
Yep.
And this is the vibe I want to set. This is the mood. So the same thing with the gym. It's like, okay, I want people to come to my gym, feel good, have a great time, laugh, make people laugh. If you enjoy doing things, you don't need as much motivation to do it. So if you could go there and have a good time, yeah, maybe it took you a little longer than you wanted to lose the 10 pounds, but I'll tell you what, you had a hell of a good time doing it, and you're going to stick through this longer than if maybe you lost 10 pounds, but it was the worst 6 weeks of your life. You're never going to want to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about, my vibe is like, okay, how much fun can I make this place to where people just love being in here? And that in itself will just attract the right people. And, there's people that come into my gym and the vibe's not for them. No hard feelings.
Mm-hmm.
You're in, you're out. The next person comes in, somebody will fill your spot. And that's just kind of how, you're only know your vibe.
Yeah. So in terms of how you build culture, right? Because that's what you're doing. You're building a culture for your business, for your gym, right? To your point, once you have your culture kind of like in place, when it comes to fitness and physical fitness, I've seen the best results and the best success, the quickest results when I've been in a community workout environment, CrossFit, something community based.
Yeah.
I can do the by myself thing. I've done it for a long time.
Right.
Earbuds in, timer.
And
You just breeze through the workouts
Right.
and get out, right? There's a different thing with energy and people
Yep.
and laughter
Yep.
and motivating each other.
That's why these gyms even exist.
Yeah, big time.
I mean, I tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, we don't have anything special in there. If anything, I have less equipment than most gyms, until you could, all these other Planet Fitness, they got tons of stuff. But the community, the energy, the camaraderie, going in there. I mean, there's people that I'll meet that are like, oh, I work out in my garage. I'm like, that's great that you have the motivation and determination to do that. But I know how, after a while, that sucks. And some people are just like that. They're able to do that, and that's, great. If you can do it, do it. But being in a group, you're all suffering together. We as humans like to be in that type of, community-based setting. You like to get along with people. You like to kind of be a unit. We're all in this together. The coach is putting us through his shit workout that we're just dying in here, and it keeps people coming back.
Dude, the analytics are out there, right? This has been proven. It's not like you're trying to invent electricity. No, this has been proven already.
Yeah.
This works. This is the reason why it works.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, man. I mean, somebody was telling me that the Planet Fitness marketing for it, and I don't know how true this is, but that they load up a lot of treadmills and a lot of individual cardio stuff.
Yeah.
And the weights are very limited or there's not a lot. It discourages this influx of people to go to the gym because they know that there aren't a lot of weights there.
Yeah. Whether it's a Planet Fitness, Retro Fitness, Jersey Strong, wherever, if you're going, that's awesome. Do what you got to do. The business model behind a Planet Fitness, I think, is terrible. They load these gyms up with people that are paying $10 a month with hopes that nobody shows up. Like you said, that wouldn't surprise me. They got all these single individual equipment. They want to, and it's a certain clientele. I get that. But the business model of those gyms need to have like 10,000 members in order to be profitable. Imagine, or whatever it is, 5,000 members, whatever. There's no way you could fit that many people in that gym. They bank on people not going, paying, and just, it's $10.
Mm-hmm.
They lock these people into these year-long memberships. I'm like the total opposite. So when I sell my gym, I go, whatever you think a gym is, we're not like that. Where I want, month to month, I need to be on my toes every month, because at any minute you could reach out to me and be like, hey, listen, I'm going to go somewhere else. So I need to provide a good product and just, and that keeps me on my toes, and just try not to be what the big companies are.
Yeah, man.
Are you a big, like you write down your stuff? Do you do any of that?
Like write down
journal?
What? Yeah.
Dude, I journal every night.
Yeah. That's how I came up with this.
And it's insane how the shit comes to life.
Yeah.
If you do that.
Yeah, man.
Tell
me about your journaling. I want to hear about that.
All right. So I haven't done this a long time, but my dad used to, was all about this. So I can't say that I haven't, I discovered it myself, but he always used to tell me, whatever you want, write it down. It's like, write it down, write it like 100 times, write it every day. And repetition of just constantly writing it. And it was crazy. I got this little thing. I read it in a book, and somebody was like, they recommended I get this called a 5-minute journal. And they have it on, I looked it up on Amazon, ordered it, and it kind of prompts you. So it gives you the same like 5 questions every day. Turn the page, new date, same questions. And it asks you like, all right, well, what are you grateful for? What was a good thing that happened today? Blah, 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 this, that. So, and it's very frequent. So it happens a lot. So you can kind of dig into things. Like, I'm going to write all about this tonight. And I just go and I write down, I am grateful for the time I spent with Mach. And it was like, whatever. Solid, dude. And it's stuff like that. But it's crazy when I was going through this initial period in my life with the gym, how like you almost dig yourself out of your own hole. Like I would just, when I was going to sign the lease in the Belmar gym, and that gym's like way bigger than the one in Brielle. It's an expensive, I pay a lot every month. It was a 5-year lease. Like I was locking myself into some serious money. And I was just like, all right, you know what? I'm going to go home. When the guy, obviously the realtor wants me to sign this lease. So he's pushing on me. He's like, oh, are you ready? I do well under pressure, but if something doesn't feel right, I won't do it. So I was just like, dude, chill. I got to write my way out of this one. So I wrote in my journal, what the hell do I do? What do I do? Give me a sign. Give me something. Am I doing the right thing? What's going on? And dude, boom, like things just started coming my way of like, to go do it. And I knew to be open to the signs that I saw. And I was just like being able to, like God or the higher power, whatever, it will point you in that direction. If you're meant to do something, there's going to be a sign. Sometimes, dude, it's like mind-blowing how clear the signs are. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, holy shit, that could not be more clear of a sign to do that. And every time it happens, I'm like, what's supposed to happen happens. And I always say like 90% of the things that you worry about, like, for instance, for you, all right, I want to be in a commercial space. Oh, well, what's the negative? What's the positive? You weigh the odds. 90% of the things that we worry about don't even happen, which is crazy. You create these things in your head, and you can't expect to, like, figure that out in your head. It's like we do, when you're growing up in school, you do complex math on a paper. Imagine you can't figure out shit in your head, you got to write it down. So why would you think you could figure out life in your head? Write it down, figure out what you want to do, and wait for a sign to come. And it's literally that simple. And bro, like I literally just live my life like that. And it's crazy to like I said, to say it, but it's so true. Like things just come my way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you just be open to the signals and just let them come.
Dude, so like the journaling thing, right? So my therapist, she's like, hey, want you to start journaling before you go to bed.
Okay.
You're going to brain dump a lot of stuff. It's supposed to help with your anxiety.
Right.
It's supposed to help you like be able to fall asleep faster.
Right.
Right. So what was happening is that I could be tired throughout the day, tired driving home from work, whatever the case may be. I would hit like this space around 8 o'clock. And where you think I'm tired that I would go to sleep, the opposite. It's like this thing would trigger in my mind, and now my mind is racing. I lay down in bed because I know instinctively like you need to lay down to go to sleep,
right,
to get a good night's rest. But now it's like your mind is like, fuck that, bro.
No,
we're not going to bed.
Yeah.
We're just getting started.
Right.
So now you're like, your mind is spinning. So the journaling part of it was to brain
settle
dump
that.
All these ideas.
And is that from, do you think that has anything to do with the PTSD?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, that's it.
For sure, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. PTSD, anxiety, this whole thing. So unfortunately, like in the military, like when you're going through these kinds of things, like culturally, the culture is to like bottle it up.
Yeah, of course.
Squeeze it down. In the last few years, that has changed, right? It's like stomp out the stigma. There's help out there.
Yeah.
Get the help. So I started to journal, and I've been doing it for months. And one day, man, like I'm literally like having this dream. That's why this is on there. Right?
That's awesome.
Like I'm literally, it was all a dream. I'm literally having a dream, dude, that I'm doing the podcast. And then it goes from like doing the podcast to like speaking to like a group of people. Like I'm speaking out to folks.
Yeah.
The logos in the background, the color scheme, the whole thing. So I wake up out of this dream, I grab my journal and I go right into the kitchen and I just start writing everything down.
Just going.
Dude, I'll show it to you. I have my original list of people that I would speak to.
Damn, that's awesome.
Dude, I have like 50 people. Joe Rogan's on there. Nori's on there. Mike Tyson's on there. Right? Like I wrote all this shit down.
Yeah.
And then color scheme, right? So like the stuff you see in here, like the candle, like the grays, the blues.
Yeah.
These are all the, like when you have a spark, those are the colors that are in a spark.
Right.
The blue, the orange.
Right.
Like,
it looks like a flame.
so it looks like a flame. That's kind of like how
that's crazy.
did all that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But that's awesome. Like it's also crazy how, like you said, how vivid, like you see it before it becomes a thing. Like I have people that ask me all the time, they're like, how did you know to lay out the gym this way? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I just had it. And it's wild that you have that there, because in the back of my gym, I have this thing on the wall and it's a kid on his bicycle looking at a Porsche, because that's like one of my favorite cars. Like one day I want to have one. And it just says it was all a dream. And it's on my back wall, like where I work out all the time.
Dude.
And it's just like, dude, I saw this before it even became this. And that's if you don't have that and it doesn't get you like excited, like, what are you doing? You gotta, you know.
The cool thing too, man, with all this has been like the support of like my wife, man. Bro, I couldn't have done any of this without her support. Like, it's almost to the point, like her level of support is almost animated. Like it belongs in like a comic book, because that's how out of this world it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, dude, like my wife, although like this is not her thing, I will say that up front. This is not her thing.
Right.
This is not, she's like, you're going to do what exactly? Like, you're
so
gonna,
she won't be sitting here. You don't think?
I would love for, I mean, listen, man, she could.
I'm sure she's got stories.
Oh man. Yeah, dude. Like, yeah, she's definitely well-versed.
She's a worthy opponent over here.
Yeah, exactly, man. So yeah, man. So again, like this whole thing kind of like starts to like grow legs, the support
Yeah.
from my wife and everything. And it was just like a lot of her stuff is like business minded. And
Right.
if it doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
you know, so
Well, it helps to have somebody like that around.
Yeah.
Dude, that at least can kind of point you like, hey, listen, no, that's not going to work. Try this, type of deal.
and then also the things that she wasn't too sure on, and I'm like, trust me on this. She's like, okay. It's such a wild thing to tell someone, trust me,
Yeah.
and for that person to be like, okay, like it's a complete surrender.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. There's no going back and
Like,
forth.
okay.
She's like, it's like, okay,
Okay. I trust
I
you.
trust you.
Which is a very difficult thing to do. At least in my experience.
Yeah, man.
I don't know. Sometimes trust is that one thing that's like you can, and I'm still like, I'm single. And I think that's partly just because I'm very dedicated to my craft and that's what I spend my time doing and whatever. But the toughest thing with a relationship, I think, in my eyes, is the trust. That's one thing that like takes forever to build and could be broken very easily. And you could build a house, you could build, you make kids, you do this and that, but the trust is one of those things that you have it and you could either make it stronger or you can break it. So if you have that trust and you guys trust each other, that's like literally the most important thing.
The most important thing, man. Like it's so a buddy of mine. So we were having a chat and I forgot what we were talking about, but it kind of like segued into kind of like what you were just referring to, like you're so like invested in your craft, right? So he was asking me something and I basically told him, I'm like, hey man, like you have the entire world in the middle of in your hands right now. Whoever's around you that is not for this journey of what you have in your hand,
Yep.
they're white noise. It's noise. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
Like, get rid of it.
Yep.
So, unfortunately, going back to like dating and that kind of thing, it's a tough spot, right? Because when you're young, you're trying to figure yourself out, and the person that you're with, the natural order of things is that they're trying to figure themselves out too.
Yep.
So, maybe their path, their journey is a little different than yours, but the point, it stays the same. If whatever's in your life, if it's not adding value to what it is you're trying to do, it's white noise.
Right.
It's
right.
know, so
right. No, I agree 100%. If you and as you get older, one of the things I've learned too is, when you're young, you're like I said, when I got out of the hospital and all these people want to hang out, I'm like, look at all these, friends. I know all these people. Awesome. That the older you get, I'm like, that circle just gets tighter and tighter, and I don't even care. It's like you got to be a real special person to be able to get, the real trust,
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, you know a lot of people, you want to network and it's good to have connections, but the real core values, like I'm like, I got my dad, I got my mom, my sister, my brother, like that's my team, I need anything, I could go to them. Outside of that, there's maybe a couple people, but that's it. I'm like, I got that group, and you kind of learn to be, okay, no, that's how it is.
Yeah.
There's not everybody deserves a spot at the table. I want you to still eat, but you're not eating at my table. And that's just kind of like, you learn that as you go. Yeah,
What's your favorite movie?
Oh man.
You said you read a lot though, right?
Yeah. I don't watch a lot of TV. No, because I'm the type, like, if I started, I got to finish it.
Yeah.
So I know when I start something, I'm like, shit, I just started this movie. Like, now I'm invested for the next, but I was watching the other day. This is not my favorite, but I do love this movie. Fast and Furious. The first one.
The first one, yeah.
Dude,
yeah.
the first one, like, you can't beat that. And I was pissed watching it because I'm like, they ruined this series.
Yeah.
I'm watching this thing in my apartment getting hype.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, these guys are like, and I'm like a car guy. Like, I love all that stuff. And they're chasing down trucks. And I'm like, how do you go from, like, I get it. It blew up. It got too big. They had to start bringing in all these, The Rock and John Cena, whatever. But I'm like, this original, when they were young and just like, that movie was great. But one of my favorite movies is, and I don't know if I'm sure you know it, The Town.
Yeah.
Dude, Great movie.
Ben Affleck.
Yeah, when he goes and he's like, yo.
Did he write it? He wrote it and directed it, right?
I'm sure. I feel like those guys are all.
Yeah. Don't quote me on that, but I think
That wouldn't surprise me.
I think he directed
Those are like
it, dude.
multi-talented. You look at somebody like Eddie Murphy. That dude, the guy that plays like every character in the whole movie. It's like, how is one person that talented to do something like that? I mean, I'm sure same thing. A lot of work went into perfecting that craft.
Yeah, for sure.
But dude, the guy's directing it. He's playing 15 different people in the same movie.
What's the guy's name? Man, I can't. Oh, dude, I gotta remember this guy's name. Fuck. He's in the town. He's I think he's Ben Affleck's cousin or something.
He's the other guy, right? The second main character. I don't know his name, but he
was just in a crazy accident.
He was
like Jeremy Renner.
Okay. He's the other guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was in some crazy accident.
Really? Like a car accident?
Bro. Crazy accident. Hang on a second. This is
that shit's like surreal. You know, you look at these people and you think like they're like invincible. That's like when Paul Walker died. I'm like, damn, dude. That shit's wild. Could change in the blink of an eye.
okay, listen, bro. I don't know how legit this is, but apparently this is from like some news network. This is my first time doing this. I don't want to get into any kind of trouble. But it says Renner suffered blunt chest trauma and orthopedic injuries as he was crushed by a snowplow in January. He had been using the snowplow, which weighed at least 14,330 pounds, to help his nephew whose vehicle had gotten stuck in the snow.
Holy shit. He's lucky he didn't die.
Dude, apparently it was like some crazy shit. Apparently like it was really like...
That was this past January, I guess, right?
Yeah, it was like... It happened like...
Recently. Hey, can all change blink of an eye,
But
dude.
I remember them saying like in the news, like he may like lose a leg or...
What?
Yeah, it was something really wild like that. You know?
You think of these people like they're invincible. They're not, dude. That's shit changes quick.
Yo,
what's your favorite?
Oh man, Heat. So okay, so my I got two favorites. Carlito's Way.
Oh, I know that one.
Carlito's Way, right? In high school, my buddies would pay me to do like impersonations of certain characters.
Yeah.
And then the other one is Heat, where like Robert De Niro,
okay,
and that whole cat,
Robert,
Al Pacino.
Like, what is that? Like there's like robbers. A line. He's like, yeah, if you don't get out of there in 30 seconds flat, something
before
like
the
that.
Heat comes around the corner. Yeah. Those are like.
Damn, that makes me want to watch that. I used to see the ads for that one, Carlito's Way, like all the time.
Yeah. And then in Heat, it's Michael Mann, I think was the director.
Okay.
Yeah. So the last scene, like the crazy gun scene, the shootout.
Yeah.
That was actually filmed on a Sunday in LA. So the reason why they filmed it on the Sunday is because they're out on the street, right? So they had to be like they were closing off streets or whatever. So but yeah, man. But I think I forget how many rounds they fired off, but to get that echo, right?
Yeah,
because that's like very distinctive to the movie, the echo of the like the caliber of the gunfire or whatever. But one of my so I took a film class in college, and we studied like all these different films. One of the first films that we studied was Platoon.
Oh, yeah.
So this was really wild. So I don't know if you know this or not, but so the movie Platoon, the plot to Platoon, when you start to really analyze the movie, it's the struggle between heaven and hell.
Okay.
So you have to listen and watch the movie because the squad leader for Charlie Sheen's squad, right? William Dafoe.
William Dafoe,
William Dafoe.
Yeah.
So William Dafoe and the other guy, I forget his name, but if you listen to the movie good, they have both been in the army the same amount of time. They're both the same rank, but yet one guy's face is just like beat to shit, right? Yeah. He has all these scars, and William Dafoe doesn't. So that's like the first depiction.
Yeah.
of the characters.
Right.
Right.
Where you
the
can kind of
difference,
see the sides.
the difference, right?
Right.
When the platoon is in the like tent and they're hanging out, if you notice, like half of them, they're almost like taking part in like ritualistic,
Uh-huh.
things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
they're smoking pot out of a pipe, out of a shotgun. They're drinking. They're playing cards. The other guys are kind of like there's a thin line between
Yeah.
the
The two polar opposites.
opposites.
I
Platoon.
take a film class one time, and it was like very interesting how like the amount of like work that goes in to direct, like like the music. They do all these different things and it all like lines up to give you this image, and it's like you would never think to dig into a movie. You just watch it. You're like, I just watch it, but like they put things in a certain way that it just makes, whether you notice it or not. And some people have the eye for it, and that's when you appreciate like a really good director or whatever. And it's like, damn, they dig, these movies, they go in depth.
So the other part about that class that I took, like we studied like lighting too. Dude, like I could watch a movie now or anything, and like I'm so intrigued in like the lighting, the this, the that, the dialogue, the music playing in the background, just all this like all these different things.
Because you have now you got that eye for it.
You have that eye for it, yeah, man, for sure.
Which even like me, like I would say, like since I opened the gym, I went one time to Disney World, Disney World, and I went, and I was like, I went with a different set of eyes to where I was looking at it like, how did this place become what it is? Like, every business starts something small and then they become something. And it's like that place is such a well-oiled machine. And it's crazy. Like you look at certain businesses and being a business owner, you appreciate the little things that they do. There's no trash on the floor in Disney. Somebody's going around cleaning it up. Like, They say that there's like people that they hire that are just pretend civilians that walk around and pick up trash. So you don't see trash, people picking up trash. Like it's little things that they do. I
didn't know that.
Yeah, I read that somewhere. They
Really?
said that Disney World hires people to just be like I guess guests, visitors at the park, and they'll go and like pick up trash and put the trash, put it in the whatever. So you don't see like worker. And I walked around, I was like, damn, yeah, there's no trash on the floor, but you don't see people like walking around scooping up like trash with like a little bin.
Yeah.
And it's just like they go to that extent. It's like that, it's the little things that make your business, like who's willing to go to that step to really make their product like, I'm proud of this product is awesome,
For sure. You said you like to read a lot?
Love to read.
Yeah. Well, what are you
like my favorite books?
Share something with us. What are you reading at the moment?
Right now, so I'm waiting. This dude is like my mentor. Like, not actually, but I wish. I wish I could afford to even have a conversation with him. But this guy's name is Alex Hormozi. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's like a big time. Actually, we have like a similar path. He opened a bunch of gyms, and people realized that he was good at opening gyms, and he developed this consulting business called Gym Launch, and he taught people how to open gyms basically. And one thing led to another. Now he's like a billionaire. He owns all these like businesses. He has this company acquisition where they just acquire little businesses, and he's just like a genius. This dude's, and he's young. He's probably like 35, maybe.
Whoa.
Yeah, but he's like a billionaire. But I listen to that's usually all I listen to, his podcast. And he's got a book coming out in like a couple, I think it might be like 5 days. So I'm just cleaning my slate. When that comes out, I'm going to buy that and just dig into it.
Really?
But I read like The Next Big Move. There's like a bunch, like 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, something. There's, How to Get Rich. I just used to read all these like, books like that on mindset stuff. But same deal, it's one thing to read a book. It's something else to be able to like pull something from it. So I try to write notes on everything that I read. And then if I ever need to like go back and pull stuff, I will. But I just I've always loved to read since I was young, like literally first grade, second grade. Like I just would read Harry Potter or whatever. And then I started to realize, okay, I actually like to read like business stuff and like mindset. And
didn't the woman who wrote Harry Potter, like, wasn't she like homeless or something like that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's got like a whole crazy, I forget her name, but she was like, it's another thing, like just these success stories of like people that were, they became obsessed with their craft. Like I read this other book one time called Winning, and it was written by Kobe Bryant's like mental health coach or something like that. It was like his coach or something. And he talked about how crazy like he was as a competitor, as a person, like the sacrifice, not having the normal life. Like you can't have it all. Okay, you want to be the best. What are you willing to sacrifice? And then once you're the best, like, okay, well, you want to be the best of the best, you got to sacrifice even more. Well, how far are you willing to go? And this guy just talked about all the things that he would do. And it's like, I don't know if you ever saw the Michael Jordan documentary.
Mm-hmm. Which one?
The Last Dance.
Oh, yeah.
The Netflix one.
The 30 for 30?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was crazy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this dude was a maniac. Like if he didn't divert that craziness to basketball, like he would have been like a psycho, because it's just the head games that they play and like these crazy things. I love like studying that type of stuff. And it's a different kind of human, man. The brain, the way that their brain works is like most people can't function that way, but that's what puts them where they are. It's just,
Yeah, man.
like, I don't know, you got to almost appreciate that like,
Yeah. Have you ever read Malcolm X?
No.
By the biography? It was written by Alex Haley. You should check that out.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you read a lot?
I would love to read more.
Yeah.
You just
Time
when you're like with the kid and
yeah,
this and that.
yeah.
So I typically try to get out onto the porch at least an hour before everybody wakes up. I try to read.
You do that like what? Every day?
I try to.
That's great.
Yeah. Especially
you dedicate more time to me.
Well, dude, I just retired like a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like every day Saturday.
Yeah.
No, but what I was gonna tell you in the Malcolm X biography is such a depiction of transition that I know a lot of people know about it, but like a lot of folks maybe don't know that. You know what I mean? So just really getting into the weeds on like how he taught himself how to read, how he taught himself how to read in prison, what he was able to do when he got out of prison,
how
he changed his life, and
which is crazy.
Yeah, and then it goes through this whole part like of when he started to practice the Muslim religion, and how there's a part, it's even in the movie too, where there's like a part where like he's speaking at different universities, and he's at this one specific university, and like a young woman came up to him, to praise him for his work, his book, and that kind of thing. And then also, I want to say there was a part in the conversation where she was asking him like, how did she get more involved with his movement? She was like a supporter,
right,
very early on.
Yeah.
And he basically like wrote her off for being white, right? He was just like basically like, yeah, no, like, and then during his pilgrimage towards the end of the book, when he describes his pilgrimage to Mecca and how he was surrounded by so many different people that did not look like him, but were Muslims, that it wasn't about skin color or race. It was about humanity. Okay. You should check it out, man. It's just it's one of the ones that resonates with me in terms of like how you could change, what I take away from it the most is that your life can start out one way, but it doesn't have to end that way.
Right.
You have this opportunity to change.
You're under no obligation to be, the person you were yesterday.
Yeah, 100%.
You could change that quick.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Hey, Max, thank you, man, for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it,
brother. Thank you.
This was a great conversation. I haven't had a good conversation like this in a while, so
man,
it's
and I appreciate
refreshing.
it. Yeah, man. Thank you for being here, Max. Thank you for being an early supporter of Spark.N.Stride.
Absolutely.
I look forward to like whatever it is we look to do in the near future.
Cool.
However we team up, whether it be like a brand thing or just how we get involved in the community. You know, the military veterans, and there's just endless possibility. You know what I mean? I just want to wish you all the best.
Thank you.
But more importantly, I want to thank you for being so open on Spark.N.Stride about your story.
I appreciate it. No, man, and best of luck to you. This thing's going places.
Thank you, brother.
Awesome.
Thank you, man.
Awesome,
brother. Thanks again.
Of course.
Spark.N.Stride. Stay spark.
Thank you.
It's much.